Oh, that was terrible. Good evening and welcome to our virtual edition of Council in the Community. What we're here to do tonight is twofold. First, we want to introduce you to your city government or reintroduce you to our city government, the people who strive every day to make our community wonderful and the ways in which we all serve you. And second, we want to hear what you have to say and answer your questions. As a matter of background, we started this iteration of our Council in the Communities program about 3 years ago. The idea was to break the city up into a bunch of small segments and take turns hosting a meeting in each segment. We'd hold these meetings quarterly, so it takes a couple years for us to cycle through the whole city. But that way we come out to you, we get to hear your perspectives, and hopefully we get to connect with people who we wouldn't otherwise see at one of our regular Monday mayor and city council meetings at City Hall. Unfortunately, the pandemic has put this, like so many other things in our lives, on hold. Every one of us would have preferred to do this in person, and we look forward to resuming that as soon as it's safe to do so. But for now, this is what we've got. We're so glad you've joined us, and we're going to have a great discussion tonight. So we're going to start with introductions. And by way of introduction, my name is Judd Ashman. I have the honor to serve you as mayor of the greatest city in the world, Gaithersburg, Maryland. I've been mayor for just about 6 years now and served on, before that, the city council for 7 years. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to call on everybody as I see in the order I see them on my screen. And if each of you could just introduce yourself, give us your title and how long you've been with the city. And we'll start with Mike Sesma.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Mayor. My name is Mike Sesma. I'm a city council member. I was first elected to the council in 2005. So I'm in the towards the end of the third year of my fourth term as council member. I think that's enough.
Thanks, Mike. We'll go to Britta.
Good evening. I'm Britta Monaco. I'm director of the Department of Community and Public Relations. And next month, I will be celebrating my 16th anniversary with the city.
Carolyn Muller.
Good evening. I'm Carolyn Muller, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Culture, and I've been with the city just about 2.5 years.
Tom Lonergan.
Good evening. I'm Tom Lonergan, Assistant City Manager. I've been with the city since 2011, so 9 years. And I oversee the economic development, housing, and council services functions for the city.
Thank you, Tom. Lynn Board.
Good evening. I am Lynn Board. I am the city attorney, and I've been with the city for 12 years now.
John Schlichting.
Good evening, everyone. I'm John Schlichting. I'm the Director of Planning and Code Administration for the city. I've had this position for 8 years, but I was actually on the city council myself from 2001 to 2007.
Dennis Enslinger.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dennis Enslinger, and I'm the Deputy City Manager, and I'm finishing up my 7th year at Gaithersburg.
Maureen Herndon.
Happy to be here. I'm Maureen Herndon. I'm Division Manager of Community Services with the city, and I've been working for the city for 22 years. Thanks.
Thank you. Kevin Roman.
Hello, Kevin Roman, Neighborhood Services Division Chief. I've been with the city just over 31 years. I started with Public Works, moved over to Animal Control and Neighborhood Services for the last 20 years.
31 years. Tanisha Briley, on the other end of that spectrum.
Good evening. I'm Tanisha Briley. I am excited to be the city manager of this amazing city. I am ending my 56th day with the city this evening, Mayor Ashman.
Love it. Love it. Chris Vance.
Good evening. I'm Chris Vance. I'm a lieutenant with the police department. I'm the operations bureau commander, and I've been with the city 23 years.
Thank you. Ryan Spiegel.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor. I'm City Council Member Ryan Spiegel. I've been serving on the council for 13 years.
Sean Eastman.
Hey, good evening all. I'm Sean Eastman. I'm also lieutenant with the police department. I oversee the Special Operations Bureau, and I just hit 21 years yesterday.
Congratulations. Kim Yocklin.
Good evening. I'm Kim Yocklin. I'm the Director of Human Resources, and I've been with the city for 24 years.
Janice Hartman.
Good evening. I'm Janice Hartman. I'm the comptroller with the city, current acting finance director, and I've been with the city nearly 3 years.
Thank you, Janice. Beth Forbes.
Hi, I'm Beth Forbes. I'm the Stormwater Project Manager. I've been with the city about 14 months now.
We'll go to Rob Wu.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, everyone. I'm Rob Wu. I'm a council member. I've been on the council since 2015, so 5 years. Hi, Julie.
And getting photobombed. All right. Chief Soroka.
Good evening. I'm Mark Soroka, the Chief of Police, and I've currently been serving in this position for 10 years.
Tony Berger.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tony Berger. I'm the Engineering Services Division Chief and currently I'm Acting Public Works Director. I've been with the city for just over 1 year.
Dan Lane.
Hi, Dan Lane with the Community Services Officer for the Police Department. I've been here 16 years.
Neil Harris.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Neil Harris. I'm just about to finish my 6th year on the City Council.
Mark Scafidi.
Hi, I'm Mark Scafidi. I'm the Public Works Operations Division Chief, and I've been with the city of Gaithersburg for 29 years.
Pete Cottrell.
Hi, I'm Peter Cottrell. I'm the Director of Information Technology, and I'm now in my 16th year with the city.
And last but not least, Lorianne Sales.
Good evening, and my apologies for the delay. My name is Lorianne Sales, and I am the Council Vice President this year, and I've been with the city for almost 4 years now.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you all. Okay, so now I'm going to have the tech team move everybody except for Maureen and Britta, the council and Tanisha, over into Zoom limbo. And we're going to start off tonight with a presentation. We figured given the pandemic and everything that's going on around us, it made sense to start with a presentation from our Community Services Division. This is the division where that helps the people in need in our community. They are the point, and Britta's, I'm going to have Britta introduce Maureen, but I'll just say if you're ever looking for a point person, somebody to point somebody in need to in this city, Maureen Herndon and her office is the place. So I'm handing it over to you, Britta. And Britta, you're on mute.
I am. I'm not even in the waiting room and I'm on mute. So good evening again. I'm delighted that so many people joined us on Zoom tonight. I understand that we had more than 100 people register, which is just wonderful news for somebody that's in the Public Information Office. So as I said earlier, I'm Director of the Department of Community and Public Relations. And in that capacity, I have the pleasure of overseeing 4 divisions. It's the city's Public Information Office function, the city's cable television station, and our video productions. We have a homeless services division that includes the operation of 2 transitional housing programs for men and women in recovery. That's our Wells Robertson House and DeSelem House. And our homeless services staff also does street outreach. So we want to invite you to contact our homeless services staff should you see someone or suspect someone who might be homeless. We can send a team out to reach out to them and try to engage them and get them sheltered and get them help. And tonight you're going to get a detailed overview from our Community Services Division, which is always on the front lines, helping people with a variety of services, connecting them to resources. And that's never been more important work than it is right now, as the mayor said, during the pandemic. It continues to impact both people's health and mental health and their financial situation. So we urge you to reach out to us for assistance. And at the end of the meeting tonight, Mayor Ashman is going to be sharing some information on how to continue to engage with the city. So we hope you'll follow us on social media, read our publications, watch our programming, and stay connected with all things Gaithersburg. So with that, I'm going to introduce Maureen Herndon, Community Services Division Manager, and she can share with you some resources and some initiatives we have going on.
Good evening, and it's great being here. As Britta said, my name is Maureen Herndon, and I oversee a wonderful staff that makes up the Community Service Division for the City of Gaithersburg. Before I start on the slides, I just wanted to give you a little overview. The staff is very aware of the many challenges facing families during this difficult time, and several new programs and ongoing services are readily available for all city residents. The staff has served hundreds of city families with COVID-related social service requests and continues to do so. We've been working daily with families who are dealing with challenges around housing payments, need for food, need for support for virtual learning, health and medical issues, and in many cases, the need for employment and income. In conjunction with the county and our nonprofits, we've been participating in several new collaborations and programs. And the main message I want to get to all of you tonight is that city staff is available, and to please encourage you to call us with any challenges that you're facing or any challenges you may know of that a neighbor is facing. I just want to take a brief opportunity to also thank the multitude of city residents, organizations, and businesses that have been so generous with their time and donations since March. It's been really incredible to see how everyone's come together to work together to serve those in needs. So I'll now highlight the mission of community service and some new programs that have been developed that you can have access to. So the general mission of community services is to strengthen the community by addressing the human service needs and safety of all city residents. We really concentrate on collaborative efforts with schools, businesses, organizations, and nonprofits. Overall, our focus is on direct information and assistance, community education and programming, partnerships and outreach, and we also, through two city committees, the Community Advisory Committee and the Educational Enrichment Committee, administer the city's nonprofit and school grant program. On the next slide, I'll highlight some of the new programs that you can take advantage of. And again, please, we encourage you to give us a call. You can also visit our community support during Corona page under the community service section at gaithersburgmd.gov. We try to keep that updated as much as possible, as a lot of services and information are changing daily. I'd like to highlight some of the main programs that are serving city residents and are available. Number one would have to be housing. By far, the most calls that we're getting are around need for mortgage or rent assistance, mostly rent assistance. The city, through its CDBG program, has an extensive rental assistance program. And we also work with the county and area nonprofits to help residents access the state and county assistance programs that are available right now through the COVID relief monies. I can't stress this enough. Please have people call us. The county program is ending phase 2 by December, the end of December. So we're trying very hard to get people to access that program. We have been spending a lot of time around service information and referrals. We try our hardest to become experts on all the different moving parts and resources available around food, health, mental health, and vocational services. We contract with nonprofits for all of these services to be free for city residents, but there's also new programs that have evolved. So again, please give us a call and we can direct you in the right direction. There's a new and exciting program that funded through the Cities for Financial Empowerment out of New York. The city has partnered with Housing Initiative Partnership. It's a professional nonprofit housing counseling agency to offer the Financial Navigator program. This program is offered just as all the other ones are in multiple languages. This is a very comprehensive counseling program, basically to help people navigate both their personal situation around finances or credit or how to access services, and also provide one-on-one credit counseling and financial stability counseling. So we are greatly encouraging folks to reach out for this program. It also involves a component where we can hook people up to vocational counseling and also a new scholarship program to help people get training. Another new program that evolves since March is the Gaithersburg Cares Hub. This program involves a partnership with Seneca Creek Community Church, who recently got a grant from Montgomery County to solidify and expand the Gaithersburg Cares Hub. This program provides food delivered to families in the city and in greater Gaithersburg and also Montgomery Village that may be home suffering from COVID and or not able to get to food distribution sites. So food and health kit needs, as well as different activities for the children, have been directly delivered to many families in our city. They've also just started an Adopt a Neighborhood program. So if you know a community in particular that could use food distributions on site, please let us know. And also if your neighborhood or group would like to adopt a neighborhood and help with the distribution of the food, please contact us as well. All the food is provided through the hub. You just have to come and pack it and help get it to the neighborhood. One of the big things we're doing on a daily basis is making sure all our flyers and social media and the city website is current. We have a lot of resource materials that we're trying to get out into the community, open to suggestions on the best way to do that. We also have flyers available if you have an event or you want to get them out in your neighborhood. So again, let us know about that. We have been partnered with the county on an ongoing basis to try to bring free testing sites into the city. We've been thrilled to have the ongoing one every Wednesday from 9 to 1 at Lake Forest Mall. We thank the county for making that happen. We also have our second one coming up on the 14th at Boer Park Activity Center. So we're pleased to be able to offer both of those in close proximity, for city neighborhoods. And they're also beginning through the Latino Health Initiative, some neighborhood site testing in some of our apartment communities they're starting out with. So again, we're trying to bring the services as much as possible to all city residents in a convenient and accessible way. The last thing I just wanted to mention is that each year we coordinate through the county's holiday giving program. We're in charge of serving city families that have been referred in for the November and December holidays. We're just over about 700 families now in our system that we're working hard to serve for both these holidays. There are donation and volunteer opportunities available if you're interested in that program, or if you know of somebody in need that might benefit, again, give us a call. Those are just some of the highlights of community service, and I appreciate you listening and for your support for all that we're doing. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Maureen, for the presentation. So to the public who's here, in an effort to try to make this as much like our in-person Council of the Communities as possible, we're going to allow public questions and comments after each of the department presentations, and then after the mayor and council speak. And we're not timing it per se, but we do ask that, since we have over 100 people who are registered for this this event, that everyone is respectful and try to get your question or your comment in as briefly as you can, so we have time for everybody. But so we just had a community services presentation. We will have economic development, neighborhood services, parks and rec, police, and public works. So for those of you who have questions or comments related to community services, one more thing I want to note. This is being broadcast over our social media channels and recorded. It will be on YouTube. It will be, it's being broadcast, streamed right now on Twitter and Facebook. So for that reason in particular, please, I ask that anybody asking questions, please do not reference any specific property addresses. or specific people's names, we would be glad after the meeting to hear from you via email or via call about any specific property related concerns. Other than that, we just speak in generalities if you have questions. So with that, I'm going to ask our tech team to give us a little primer on how to work with the Zoom raise your hand feature.
Good evening. If you've connected to the meeting tonight via Zoom and you're on a desktop or a laptop and you wish to make a public comment, we can't currently see or hear you. What you need to do, please, is wiggle your mouse around and look towards the bottom center of your screen. You should see a raise hand button. Go ahead and click on that now for us, please. Alternatively, if you've connected in via telephone, you can press *9.
Okay, so we'll go one by one in the order I see them. I see Trisha Smith has a raised hand. Tech team, if you could bring up Trisha. And Trisha, just as soon as you unmute yourself, go right ahead.
Hi, I was wondering if there is any flyer that has been put together in multiple languages that I can post in my community to notify people of these resources. I feel like the biggest issue is that people who need the resources don't get the information. They maybe don't have a computer and can't even attend this meeting, and you're not speaking in multiple languages with subtitles. So is there, a PDF that I can print out and post in my community?
Thank you for that question. Maureen, go ahead.
Yes, and thank you for your question. And absolutely, all our materials, and I can forward you several things. One in particular that concentrates kind of on overall resources. It is in English and Spanish, but we also have resources through the county that are in multiple languages in addition to the English and Spanish. So I can, get back in touch with you and get you whatever you need. We have been getting out a lot of flyers to our, just so you know, to our apartment complexes through neighborhood services and through our nonprofit partners and through the schools. So yes, I do.
Yeah, I'm just on the board of our association, and we have almost 200 units, and I have not seen anything. So I would appreciate it if you could send me it.
Okay, thank you, Trisha. We're going to go to the next question, but Maureen, what's the best email at which people can reach you?
So the best way to start talking over email is Maureen .Herndon, HERNDON at Gaithersburgmd.gov. Our direct number is 301-258-6395. And I check those messages as we're in and out of the office. So I'm happy to respond to you right away.
Thank you, Maureen. Okay, tech team, if you could bring up Mary Hoffrick, please. Mary, as soon as you're ready, go right ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm concerned about 34 senior citizens that have been bumped out of the county nutrition program. As you probably know, the senior center has long served meals, nutritional meals to our senior citizens that come to the center. When the pandemic hit, of course, the center closed. And since that time, the wonderful staff of the center have been providing meals, 7 meals once a week to needy senior citizens. Last week, we were informed that 34 senior citizens are now bumped off that program. And that's because there's a long wait list. I'm concerned. I mean, we're meeting by Zoom. Those 34 senior citizens, which are the most vulnerable people among us, are going to have to go out and go grocery shopping. I just don't think that's right. And I'm wondering if the city has any resources that they could supplement the senior center so that they could continue providing those 70 meals. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. I'll let you take that, Maureen.
Sure. So yeah, Mary, thank you. And this is something we've actually been working on in the last week. The program Mary's referring to has been administered through our senior center and our senior center staff through the senior nutrition program. There's also been a lunch program, a cater lunch program operating side by side with this for another group of folks at Hillside and the Oaks. both the programs, from what I understand, were specifically, or at least the new pot of money, COVID related. So the money started to run out, and so reevaluation of everyone in the program has started. I'm still trying to gather information of what led up to this. But in the meantime, we've been working with the senior center staff, as well as Hillside and the Oaks, to get additional information to them about other programs. For instance, the Hub delivers groceries, Manna Food delivers groceries. So we're trying to get more neighborhood site distributions around groceries. A small mini pantry opened at one of the senior complexes. So we're trying to piece together other things and continue the research of, if something can be done to get folks back on. So I can definitely stay in touch with you, Mary, and I have a chat with Smitty, who heads up our senior center, coming up as well, to figure out the next step.
Thank you, Maureen. Let's go tech team to Rob Krebs, please. Rob, whenever you're ready, just go right ahead.
Thanks. I just merely pressed the raise the hand because the instructional video told me to. So I'm good. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I apologize, and I'll wait until there's something a little bit more applicable to the HOA at Saybrook.
Okay, thank you, Rob. I see a hand for a phone number who's, I don't know who it belongs to, but it begins with a 240 and it ends with a 294. If you can just state your name so we know who's talking, go right ahead.
Good evening. This is Anita. I actually just wanted information on how I could contact Maureen about the giving program, and she already gave me that information. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Appreciate your interest in that. Next, tech team, you can bring up Diane Jackson. Diane, whenever you're ready, just go right ahead. I guess we lost Diane. Okay, well, Diane, feel free to raise your hand again later if
she was there, she was muted.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unfortunately, Diane's on an older version of Zoom, which does not allow her to only speak. So she'd unfortunately have to upgrade her Zoom before she'd be able to speak.
Okay. Well, feel free to call in, Diane, or feel free also to send us, any one of us, a note about your question or concern, and we will respond to you. So I guess we'll move on to the next presentation, but I want to thank Britta and Maureen very much. Maureen in particular for being the point person during this time of need. Your office has been amazing. I know pretty much all the council members have volunteered sometime or been involved in some effort that you guys are involved with, and it's good work in the community. Actually, I see one more hand before we let you guys go. Tech team, bring up Tricia Smith. Tricia, whenever you're ready, go right ahead.
Hi. So one last question before you all go. Is there one centralized location where we can get your email address or phone number to reach you versus searching, ad nauseum?
Britta, go ahead.
I was going to say, a staff directory is available on the city website. So as long as you know the staff person's name, you can find their email address and their telephone number.
Thank you.
Yep, and our city website is gaithersburgmd.gov. Thank you, guys. Next, we're tech team. If you could bring up Tom Lonergan. I don't think anybody else is with Tom to do the economic development update, so I believe we're just bringing up Tom here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I am flying solo tonight. And good evening, everybody. The COVID-19 pandemic has certainly demonstrated itself to not only be a public health disaster, but a crisis that has profoundly upended the global economy. Business closures, record high unemployment, decimation of the travel and tourism industries have been among its most apparent economic manifestations. And as resilient as our city has been through prior slowdowns and recessions, it's pretty clear that the economic impacts are being realized in our own backyard. Office vacancy rates have risen, as has our unemployment rate. Hotel occupancy is at a fraction of its typical level, and our theaters and entertainment venues largely remain shuttered. Pier 1, Bed Bath & Beyond, Chuck E. Cheese, and even Starbucks are just among a handful of national chains that have shuttered some of their outposts in the city. And the impact upon our small business community and older retail shopping centers has even been more acute. So while much of the more routine work of the Economic Development Division has certainly continued, a great deal of time this year has been committed towards helping the city contend with the challenges brought on by the pandemic. To date, the burden of a response to the economic fallout of the pandemic has been shared with our county, state, and federal partner agencies. We can debate as to whether or not the grants, loans, and other programs that have been rolled out from these partners have all been crafted or implemented as effectively or efficiently as they could have been, but thankfully most if not all have been available to city businesses, and many of our businesses have used those programs as lifelines. Given the size and budget capabilities of those partner agencies as compared to our own, these partner agencies have provided the biggest share of financial support to city businesses that are struggling as a result. However, the city has been able to provide direct financial support to small businesses through a couple of programs, both old and new. Our newest program, the Gaithersburg Emergency Microgrant Program, is now accepting applications. The program provides up to $5,000 of direct financial assistance to income-eligible for-profit businesses with 5 or fewer employees that have experienced a reduction of revenue as a result of the public health emergency. Applications and program instructions can be found on our economic development website, growgaithersburg.com. City staff is currently reviewing applications based on a rolling random lottery system, and this process will continue until the funding is exhausted. If any of you know of a small business in the community that could potentially benefit by this program, I encourage you to please reach out to them or reach out to me to let them know about this program that's available as soon as you possibly can. And the second program, which we've had in place for some time, is the Economic Development Toolbox, which is a city managed and funded matching grant program designed to support costs associated with improving commercial spaces for businesses to occupy. That remains available for businesses still looking to open up in Gaithersburg. While most of the headlines have understandably been dominated with news about business closures, we have actually been fortunate to see some new businesses opening over the past 6 months, and this program continues to be there to help support those investments. More information about this program can also be found on the Economic Development website. Spreading the reliable word to local employers on any and all relevant information on COVID has been a priority for economic development staff over the past several months. Regulatory requirements and changes is among the information we share. Those requirements and changes happen quite regularly, especially as Montgomery County has tended to maintain tighter restrictions than those permitted by the state of Maryland. In fact, tomorrow, the County Council is anticipated to vote on new restrictions that would reduce capacity at restaurants, retail, and other venues to 25% and require restaurants to hold on to contract tracing information for 30 days. Should that happen, we will want to ensure that our city's business community is aware and compliant. Likewise, as I mentioned, federal, state, and county COVID assistance programs have provided the largest share of grant and loan opportunities for small businesses, and we want to make the community aware of opportunities as they become available. While we are awaiting more support from the federal government, the state and county have rolled out or are preparing to roll out new programs that may be of interest and assistance to several sectors of our business community. We don't want any of our businesses to miss out on any potential lifelines. Adapting to changing conditions continues to be a work in progress. Staff coordinates regularly with county government partners through business sector work groups, of which economic development staff is actively involved with 4 of those, including those directed at supporting small businesses, retail and restaurant, and hospitality sectors. In addition, we have been working with planning staff and other internal and external partners on identifying and evaluating potential regulatory changes for a future recovery. Next slide. With more than 60 life science companies and more than half of the I-270's corridor inventory of lab space, Gaithersburg has been called the epicenter of the capital region's biotechnology industry for a good reason. It turns out that we are potentially also at the epicenter of a solution to the COVID-19 health pandemic. Towards that end, there has been an unprecedented federal investment in local biotech companies to prevent and treat COVID-19, estimated at more than $2 billion. There has been growing demand for Gaithersburg's incredibly talented workforce to combat the public health threat. And new investment in several local facilities to accommodate this heightened R&D work is already underway. Novavax has certainly garnered the most recent attention for their work in Gaithersburg, having just announced their plans to occupy the long vacant building at 700 Quince Orchard Road and hire more than 400 people in the near future. Just today, Novavax earned fast track designation from the Food and Drug Administration for its coronavirus vaccine candidate, which is currently in late stage development. But several others, including AstraZeneca, Emergent, Biosolutions, Altimmune, and Adaptive Phage Therapeutics, are Gaithersburg companies working hard at delivering vaccines that will hopefully mitigate the threat posed by COVID-19. And very quickly, Mr. Mayor, I did want to just mention, if that's okay with you, a couple of other points on a couple of projects that I believe may be of interest to attendees and certainly to the community at large. Regarding the former Leidos property located at 700 North Frederick Avenue, the city has received a schematic development plan, or SDP, application for the site. The proposed plan is for a phased build out of the property. The first phase is for a total of 460,000 square feet of commercial development intended for a mix of retail and employment uses. The second phase will be included in a subsequent SDP. The current SDP is still under review and a public hearing date has not yet been scheduled. The Matten Company, which owns the property, is actively working with city staff and marketing the site to a variety of potential industries and users. And regarding Lake Forest Mall, the city is currently undertaking a process to amend the master plan for the Lake Forest Mall site. The mall is currently zoned C2, meaning exclusively for commercial purposes. The master plan recommends rezoning to MXD, or mixed use development. This exercise is intended to outline the vision and elements, both in design and uses, to include or potentially even exclude from any future rezoning and redevelopment plan for the mall site. To clarify, the mall is still comprised of 5 separate owners: the core, owned by WRS out of South Carolina, and the anchor properties, each with their own respective owners. To redevelop the site has been submitted to the city. City staff recently concluded the public engagement portion of this process, which included dozens of virtual meetings with community stakeholders and an online survey that was completed by 3,463 respondents. A survey was also mailed to approximately 7,000 households, with nearly 700 completed and returned. The next step in the process will be a joint work session with the mayor, city council, and planning commission on December 14th, where engagement findings will be presented with the intent of receiving guidance on the direction of the master plan. The draft plan is anticipated to be released for public comment in late February or early March, with a public hearing scheduled in May. Survey results, focus group summaries, and public comments, along with other background materials, are available for viewing at any time on our Lake Forest Mall project page, which can be found on the city's website, gaithersburgmd.gov/Lake Forest. Mr. Mayor, that's all I've got.
Thank you very much, Tom. So we'll send this out to the public again. If you have questions about businesses, economic development, incentive programs, new development activity that's happening in the city, this would be a great time. Again, use the Zoom raise your hand feature if you have a question or a comment. And if you're on a phone, then hit *9 and we'll call on you in the order that I see you. And the first is tech team. If you can bring up Robert Rogers, that'd be great. Robert, please go right ahead whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much. First, I want to say how pleased my wife and I are to be approaching our 1 year of living in Gaithersburg. It's a wonderful city. My comments are about 4 of the projects that I see is all intertwined. Lake Forest Mall, it's the Leidos property. You've got the Montgomery County Fairgrounds, and you've got the strip area along North Frederick Avenue, which I think can make a wonderful combination of a revitalized area. And I think this is in the category of new investments in local facilities to accommodate heightened R&D work and to really capitalize on all the good things in Gaithersburg. The Leidos property, I know you mentioned some things earlier, but it seemed like it could be used for development of new concepts of housing, putting together housing, modular units for kitchens and bathrooms and solar panels and all these kind of things that could feed into a revitalized Lake Forest Mall in its mixed use development. So I would hope that the city would look at things like the 3 little lakes that are on the Lake Forest Mall property and the wonderful synergy of these 3 large parcels of land that are in very close proximity to each other to see how one can tie all of that together in a comprehensive economic development package. So, but thank you for all your efforts.
Thank you for your comments. I think those are some astute observations. Did we lose Tom? Tech team, did you send him back into Zoom limbo?
Not intentionally.
Maybe Tom, we lost.
I actually don't see Tom. I think we may have lost.
Okay. Okay. Well, we can handle questions, and if anything comes in above our pay grade, we'll just bring in John Schlichting. Or Tanisha, you can step in if you need. Next, we have Susie Ward. Tech team, if you can bring up Susie, and Susie, whenever you're ready, go right ahead. And here's
Hi,
Tom.
I'm Susie Ward. I live at 437 Gaither Street, and I'm just curious what exactly is going on in Old Town on Diamond Avenue, because there's some storefronts that have been, I mean, I know why they're vacant, at least Sydney, Wilson's and Waters. I know why they're vacant, but I'm curious as to why they've been vacant so long and nothing's really happening there. They seem like great properties or great locations for somebody to have a little business.
Thank you, Susie. Like you, I'm quite bullish on all of Gaithersburg, but particularly Old Town Gaithersburg. Tom, do you want to take a stab at that?
Susie, I was simply going to say that Sydney and the neighboring property owner are working to re-tenant any spaces that are vacant. It is nice to see the Old Town Cafe is expanding into the corner, former Diamond Drug space, in fact, with the support of a city Toolbox grant. So hopefully we have some more news to report on tenants opening up there in the not too distant future.
Thank you, Tom. Mary Hoffreck, tech team. Mary, whenever you're ready, just go right ahead.
Thank you. I just have to remember to unmute periodically. As long as there's the redevelopment going on Lake Forest Mall, I would like to see the Holiday Inn be considered for the senior center. I understand there's an issue with zoning, but as long as you're rezoning Lake Forest Mall to mixed, why don't you just carve a little bubble around the Holiday Inn and make that a new senior center? We have identified the need for a new senior center from 2006. Our older population is expected to grow by 40% in the next 10 years and by 70% in the next 20 years. We clearly have outgrown the Benjamin Gaither Center, and I would hope that the council would consider the Holiday Inn as a possibility. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary. So I'll just preface whatever Tom's going to say by saying that the Lake Forest study is, the scope of that is pretty set, because we've already begun, as Tom mentioned before, public outreach and part of the process for coming up with a new vision for that. But another challenge to just making the Holiday Inn a senior center is that we don't own it, and there would have to be some sort of interplay with the property owner. And there is some discussion going on with the property owner about various things. We'll have to see how those turn out. But Tom, let me give it to you to add whatever you'd like to add to that.
I think you pretty much said it all. The Holiday Inn property certainly has a lot of moving parts right now. But Mary, it was nice speaking with you the other day at the Senior Advisory Committee, and appreciate your feedback on that senior center. But as the mayor said, there's a lot of work to be done on that site before we know if that could happen.
Thanks, Tom. Let's move on to Sharon Silverman, Tech Team. Sharon, whenever you're ready, go right ahead.
Hi, good evening, all. My question is, you're saying you're going to redevelop the Lake Forest Mall. And I think prior to doing that, and this would probably go along with Dan Lane as well, and the Gaithersburg City Police, how do you make the area safer? I live near it, and I'm not going to tell you my address because you've asked me not to, but we have problems that are not drastic, but they're big enough to could be concerning as far as safety for everybody around Lake Forest. There are speeding cars, there's break-ins. I mean, I read the reports all the time, but what are you going to do to make it safer prior to rebuilding it into a multi-dimensional unit with both housing and stores? And apparently the plan sounds like it's going to be something like Pike and Rose. Is there a plan for that to make it safer prior to doing it? Because if you don't, people aren't going to go. That's one of the reasons Lake Forest has basically failed. I was around when Lake Forest was built. It was wonderful. But now there's nobody I know that wants to go up there.
I appreciate the question. I'm going to put it on the table until we get to our police presentation, and they can talk about public safety efforts in the crime stats that are associated with that area. I don't think Tom is as conversant as Dan Lane and our chief and our department will be. So, but I've written it down, and we'll address that question when we get to the police. Tanisha, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not looking to speak for the chief or Dan Lane either. I just wanted to clarify that while some may have seen some proposed plans from the developer on the Lake Forest site, the city has not proposed any plans for the site. We are currently in the public engagement phase of trying to work on a vision for the site. So I just I remember the speaker did reference that there are plans that are currently existing. I just want to clarify that the city has not proposed any plans at this point.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that clarification. I'll further add to it that the plan that was reported locally in local media was developed internally by one of the property owners who would not be able to propose it currently because they don't own all the properties. It's extremely early, to say the least, for them to put something like that out there. But we haven't vetted it. It hasn't been officially submitted to us, and it couldn't be at this time. So just so you know, we're some ways away from a Lake Forest redevelopment. There would have to be some party that acquired all the other properties, and at this point that hasn't happened yet. Susie, you have a follow-up? Go ahead, Susie Ward.
Thank you. I just had one more question. I'm just curious if we know that if there's any, I mean, I did see a sign on what used to be Buffalo Billiards that something's coming, but I was also curious about, well, when that might be, and if there's anything going on with the Belt Building, which is the old Growlers.
Great question. Tom, go ahead.
I'll answer those as best I can, Susie. There is supposed to be a restaurant taking the space at the old billiard space on East Diamond. I can't confirm whether or not the lease is still in place. Much of this was secured pre-pandemic, but it's my understanding that the landlord is still working with that potential tenant. And I wish I had more of an update for you on what's going on with the Belt Building. There is no restaurant or brewery obviously operating in there. And we are attempting to get more information on what the status is of any potential opening of a restaurant there by the current leasee. But getting that information has been a little bit harder than we ever imagined it would be. But maybe if you follow up with me, I'll be able to provide more information, hopefully in the not too distant future.
And tech team, if you could bring up Tricia Smith. Tricia, go ahead whenever you're ready.
I had two questions also about the senior issue that was brought up earlier. There does seem to be a lack of community services and the like. And maybe I, again, am not just knowledgeable about it. I just moved here about a year ago. But when I moved here, I used to live in Bethesda, and there used to be quite visible senior buses and other things that would pick up the elderly residents and take them to various programs. And I don't see that here. And maybe, again, I'm just not knowledgeable about it. But with the growing population of seniors, it does seem to be a big need. And with any redevelopment in any area, there needs to be that component put into place for housing, for services, for everything else. So I just wanted to put in my 2 cents. I agree with that other caller.
Thank you. Did you have another question too? I thought you said you had.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I did say 2. And I don't know, what are your boundary lines? Are you strictly the city of Gaithersburg that you monitor, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And so with this grant program, I know actually a restaurant business that wanted to expand. So I will direct them to that economic grant you have. I assume they could also use it, correct? If they want to start a business in Gaithersburg?
The Toolbox grant program, I think that's the one you're referring to.
Yes.
It's specifically for existing businesses looking to relocate to or expand within the city or make improvements to an existing business. It is explicitly not for startups, but they don't have to be in business long, just 1 year or more.
Well, this company is in business outside of the city limits.
Then yes.
Then it does apply to them. Okay.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And at this point, I don't see any more hands up. I do. Debbie Sarabia. Tech team, if you can bring up Debbie, go ahead whenever you're ready, Debbie.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay. Yeah, Debbie Sarabia. I live in Saybrook neighborhood near Old Town, between Old Town and Lake Forest Mall. I observed thriving locations all over the state, and one thing I've seen they have in common is they accommodate pedestrians and bicycles. They have nice wide sidewalks. They have bike lanes, and I don't see that. That's not happening in Old Town or on Frederick Road. I hope that will be accommodated in the Lake Forest Mall plan. But yeah, I have a hard time bicycling on Frederick Road. The sidewalks are very narrow. They're very busy. It's not like nobody's down there. I have to roll off and, go around the pedestrians, and there's no question of me riding on the road. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm experienced riding in urban areas, but I'm not going to do that. So I want to emphasize that redevelopment. We want to bring economic recovery to these areas, you want people to move in and enjoy living here, we're going to have to start living in the 21st century and bring in the bicycles and pedestrian and just do the whole new urbanism, which I think you all enjoy over there on the west side. So just want to emphasize that. That would be something to bump that up a higher priority. Where I live, my neighborhood between where I am near Kelly Park and Old Town is great. Nice big sidewalks and slow bike lanes. And so it's really good if that could be expanded. to link more of our city, that would, I think a lot of people are real happy with that. Thanks, that's all I have.
Thank you. I think those are excellent points, and I'm sure that it's something that the council and I and our planning staff are well aware of, and I'm sure would be part of the thinking for design of a new master planned area on the Lake Forest property. Just a note in terms of the narrowness of the rights of way in Old Town and Route 355. Unfortunately, those are sort of relics of development that happened. You talk about welcome to the 21st century. That happened mid 20th century. Sometimes, in some cases, early 20th century, before there were planning standards and thinking about the pedestrians and bikes in the same way that we do now. So they present a challenge, and we recognize it, and it's definitely top of mind for us. So with that, I will thank Tom, and we will move on to our next presentation. And tech team, if you can bring up Kevin Roman. And Kevin heads up our Neighborhood Services Office, which is within our Department of Planning and Code Administration. And for, during the pandemic, when a lot of people have been working remotely from home, spending a lot more time in their neighborhoods, doing things around the house. Maybe they've needed permits. Maybe they haven't known if they need permits. Maybe they've noticed code violations of their neighbors for whatever reason. And it's Kevin's office who you would call to talk about any potential code violations, because that's what they do, is enforcement, and they do a great job of it. Kevin, take it away.
Thank you, Mayor. Hello, everyone, and thanks again for joining us tonight. As was said earlier, I wish we could be in person to really get that personal connection with you, but it is what it is, and I'm hopeful we'll get back to those in-person meetings soon. Tonight, I'm going to give you provide a quick snapshot of what we do in neighborhood services. And as our name implies, we are here simply to serve our neighborhoods, which includes our residents, our tenants, our landlords, and our business partners. Currently, we have approximately 70,000 residents living in about 28,000 homes, and we're about 10 square miles. So you could say we're fairly dense, but our population is truly diverse, and your neighborhood services staff reflects that diversity, and that's one thing that we are very proud of. In fact, many of us are homegrown and or live in the city, and this helps in what we do, as we are intimately familiar with the neighborhoods, and we have a vested interest to ensure our properties are well maintained and protected. In neighborhood services and planning and code, our mission is to ensure the health and welfare and the quality of life of our life is protected for our residents. And we do this through the administration and enforcement of the city code, including chapters on animal control, property maintenance, rental housing, sanitation, and zoning, to name a few. And in neighborhood services, we have 3 teams that work together to make this happen, either by responding to citizen concerns or better yet, when staff proactively address violations that we see in the field. Tech team, can you please advance the slide? The first of our teams is our animal services, which is near and dear to my heart, being a former animal control officer and pet lover. Our officers perform animal welfare checks to ensure pets are being well cared for. We educate owners on leash and sanitation laws and how to be a responsible pet owner. We also respond to aggressive or dangerous animal complaints on occasion when those do arise. We also respond to concerns of injured and sick wildlife. We monitor the use and activity of the city dog park. And of course, we ensure that all dogs and cats are licensed and properly vaccinated against rabies. Each year, we have about 3 or 4 animals that test positive for rabies. The last one that you saw in the news was actually a coyote. It was just down south of us in Rockville, where the coyote had a contact with a pedestrian and a domestic animal. And that coyote did test positive for rabies. So it is still prevalent in the area, and we want to make sure our pets are protected and they get those rabies shots. Our second group is our code compliance and nuisance abatement staff. They handle a wide variety of concerns on owner-occupied properties, commercial properties, and our public right-of-ways. Some of the nuisance type violations include trash out of the appropriate stored containers. We also deal with unregistered or abandoned vehicles, tall grass and weeds, all those nuisance type things that really impact the quality of life. We deal with illegal signs, hazardous trees that may be a threat to pedestrians or structures or vehicles in the neighborhoods. Also, as you'll see, a lot of times we have shopping carts that end up in the public right of way, and we work with those establishments to make sure they're collected and stored in their designated areas. We also do rodent and pest infestation complaints, and we handle noise disturbances. As you can see, they do handle a wide variety of issues. But we also handle some issues, difficult life safety concerns in the interior of homes, including hoarding cases and occupancy concerns. Both of these type of cases lead to potential fire hazards. Hoarding cases, obviously, with the amount of combustible material that might be in the home, and also if the safe and travel, the egress through the home is blocked due to the amount of debris in the home. We want to make sure that area is free and clear of items. And for occupancy concerns, there is always a potential when you have an overcrowding situation, is potential for occupants to use illegal sleeping areas. These are areas which are rooms that don't meet code requirements for emergency escape in the event of a fire. And that's something that we don't want to happen in Gaithersburg, and we want to prohibit the use of those rooms. So if anyone has any questions or concerns, you can definitely give us a call and let us know, where you think these concerns may be happening. Also in the neighborhood, we license door-to-door salesmen that come through the neighborhoods. We want to make sure that if they come to your door, you want to make sure that they have a city license from the Planning and Code Administration. Also our food trucks, our ice cream vendors, and the home-based businesses that are operating in the out of the neighborhoods, they also need a license from the city's Planning and Code. Moving on, we also do some enforcement of the cable franchise agreements. The city has franchise agreements with Comcast, RCN, and Verizon. And from time to time, you'll see that their infrastructure gets damaged. And if you see like their pedestals that are broken, sometimes they're hit by landscape equipment. Their handholds get cracked and they just need to be repaired. Or you'll see above ground cable lines that they're temporary lines that provide service when their service is cut, but sometimes it takes them a length of time to get them buried. But we want to get those buried right away. So if you see any of those out in the neighborhood, you can contact us and we'll contact that provider to get those repaired in a timely manner. And lastly, in our rental housing and landlord tenant services, this is one area where COVID is still impacting our daily operations, as we have temporarily suspended our proactive rental housing inspections due to the pandemic for obvious reasons. That said, we do have a plan in place to resume those inspections when it's determined safe to do so. And I want to be clear that it's just our proactive inspections. If landlords or tenants, they still have complaints, we are still performing those complaint-based inspections. So if you have a concern, you can still let us know. We'll still come out and we'll do that inspection. Staff has all the appropriate PPE to wear, and we respect the social distance protocols to do those inspections safely. Therefore, under normal conditions, which we're not dealing with these days, we would license all license and inspect all rental properties and perform at least one inspection every 2 years, or as often as needed to ensure the properties are maintained up to code standards. As mentioned previously, we have about 28,000 residential units in the city, and just under half of those are rental properties. And at the last count, we had about 13,500 licensed rentals. And when you have all those rental properties, you have a lot of landlord-tenant relationships. And while most of those relationships run smoothly, our landlord-tenant staff are available to ensure all parties understand their rights and their obligations, and they're available to mediate any concerns that may arise between those landlords and tenants. The most of the concerns that we receive include disputes involving security deposits, notice requirements, and lease obligations. And that basically sums up some of the services that we provide, but I did want to mention a few more items. The first, with over 100 different residential communities, more than 50 apartment complexes, and all of our commercial centers, we have a lot of ground to cover. And while staff do a great job performing proactive inspections, we might not see it all. Therefore, we need the public's ears and eyes. So if you see something wrong in your neighborhood, or just when you're out and about driving around the city, let us know. And if we can, again, if we can, we'll do our best to make it right. And with that, I just want to add a couple more PSAs. Winter weather is coming. So this is a general reminder: if we get snow, and I hope we don't, but if we do, please maintain any public walks that abut your property free from snow and ice. This will provide safe travel for all pedestrians after the storm. And also, if you don't take anything else away from tonight's meeting, please remember this: smoke alarms and carbon monoxide alarms save lives. Please check your home for working smoke alarms. In the city of Gaithersburg, alarms are required in every bedroom and on every level of the home. Again, that's smoke alarms. They're required in every bedroom and on every level of the home. Now, the carbon monoxide alarms, they're required on all rental properties on every level. So that's the top floor, the middle floor, and your basement. That's for rental properties. But it is strongly recommended for owner-occupied properties to also install those carbon monoxide alarms. Again, carbon monoxide alarms, smoke alarms, they save lives. It's proven. Please get those installed. And finally, and I promise this is it, I wanted to mention the CCOC, which is the Commission on Common Ownership Communities. On October 19th, the Mayor and Council introduced an ordinance to opt into Montgomery County's Commission on Common Ownership Communities. This does not mean that the measure passed. It only advances the process to the next phase, which is a public hearing, and that public hearing is scheduled for next Monday, November 16th at 7:30. And just for a quick rundown on what the CCOC program is, for those of you that aren't sure, this program provides that all common ownerships, and those are formal HOAs and formal condo associations, it requires that they all register with the CCOC. And that registration does require a fee. It's a $5 per unit in each association. The CCOC program offers the dispute resolution mechanism between residents and the association that does have due process protections in it. They oversee elections, budget adoptions, and enforcement procedures in associations. They also provide educational programs and technical assistance to unit owners and board members, so that all parties understand the rights and obligations of living in a common ownership community. And therefore, if you have comments that you want to include in the public record, please send your written statements to mccservices@gaithersburgmd.gov. Again, that's mccservices@gaithersburgmd.gov. or you can register to speak at that meeting through our website, which again is www.gaithersburgmd.gov. Again, that public hearing is scheduled for next Monday night, November 16th at 7:30 p.m. And with that, I will turn it back over to Mayor Ashman.
Thank you, Kevin. Just one quick add-on factoid about the CCOC. You mentioned it's $5 per unit. Just want to mention that it's $5 per unit per year.
That's correct. It's annual.
It's
Yes.
an annual fee of $5 per unit. And I want to underscore and emphasize your call to everybody about if there's something going on in your neighborhood, we want to help. In fact, I can't tell you, it's hard to even count how many times we have had an issue come up and either the resident has sent it directly to Kevin in his office or sent it through one of us to Kevin, and then we've got it to Kevin, and it's been resolved that day. Like, they're not messing around, okay? So if there's an issue in your neighborhood, don't trust that we're gonna see it, because we're not in every neighborhood all the time. But you know what? This is the greatest city in the world, and it's that way because we keep it that way, because we care about our communities. Help us help you. All right, enough with that. In this presentation in particular, I found when we do it in person, this is the one people are most likely to forget about the rule. Don't bring up any specific addresses. Don't bring up any specific people's names. We want to speak in generalities about this, but we want to answer your questions, but we will be available offline to talk about any specific people or addresses. Tech team, if you could bring up Susan Wilson, please. Susan, whenever you're ready, go right ahead.
Hi, Judd. Hi, Kevin. First, Kevin, thank you so much for the work that you all do. The sensitivity and the intelligence with which you work with community services and neighborhoods is without peer. And that's again why we are the greatest city in the world. But I do have you too, Judd, and everyone else on the council. But I do have a question about one thing I think you're probably sick of hearing about, and that is leaf blowers. And there are times, since many of us are working from home right now, I have to shut my windows in my office because my neighbor's leaf blowers are so loud and will go for several hours. What is the ordinance in Gaithersburg or the county that speaks to that? And can anything be done to have some enforcement about it? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Susan, for those comments. We really appreciate that. For the noise ordinance and the leaf blowers, we do have a disturbing the peace ordinance in the city, and that involves amplified music and labor-saving devices in their start time. So the start time for the labor-saving devices, or I should say the quiet hours, are actually 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. Monday through Friday, and 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. on weekends and federal holidays. Therefore, if the neighbor is utilizing the leaf blower during the middle of the day when it doesn't, our code would not apply, the county actually has a true noise ordinance that goes by the decibel levels. And those decibel levels are pretty strict. I think the daytime are 65 decibels, which is very quiet if you're using a leaf blower. It's like someone having a conversation at 65 decibel levels, and that's measured at the common property line. So I work closely with DEP, which is the Department of Environmental Protection down there, and their supervisor. We can chat and we can get that concern over to DEP, where they can actually come out and take some readings and for any enforcement.
Thanks, Susan. Thanks, Kevin. We'll go tech team to Rob Krebs, please. Rob, whenever you're ready, just go right ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you so much. Just want to quickly say Rob Krebs, a 30-year resident, the president of the HOA, Saybrook HOA. We have 478 homes. I just wanted to reiterate what the last speaker said and thank the council, first of all, for this opportunity to meet with them. And thank you for the support for being a really, really well-run city. especially in this area of city services and Kevin's department. Wanted to thank the council, all of the council members, for your support last year in developing the MOU, similar to the Kentlands for Saybrook and for our 478 homes. They're very appreciative of that. We got that out immediately in a e-blast to all of our residents to make sure that you guys got the credit for that. It was wonderful to work with Dennis Eslinger after the first city manager had stepped down, Tommy Tomasella. Wonderful to work with. Look forward to working with the city manager, Tanisha Briley. Good to see you, Tanisha. I'm glad to have you there and look forward to meeting you in person. But Kevin is our go-to person. And from his explaining the CCOC thing in an email 5 minutes before this meeting to being so responsive on so many matters. I want to call out Mark Scafidi too, because he was the one who helped us really shape up what that MOU would be. So again, thank you very, 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 very much. I just want to make a quick point that for HOAs, this point in the calendar year is a really tough time because they're all preparing for their annual meetings, running on an annual scale, on an annual calendar. And so to have a meeting now where you can get input from the HOAs is very tough because we're preparing. In fact, ours is tomorrow night. I had a question about the CCOC and that was pretty much answered. I wanted to ask how I can get further information about the flow of the water drainage that goes into our stormwater maintenance pond, but I'll follow up with Kevin afterwards on that. I wanted to also state that many of our residents are interested in dog poop. Dog poop is a big issue, as it was tonight in all of your commentation and your commentators too as well. And we have an area beside our tennis courts that might very well be made into a dog park area. We'd like to know what help we might get with the city to maybe make that happen, so that we might have something over in here in this side of Gaithersburg to talk a little bit further about that. And finally, one thing that's really on our mind in Kevin's area, and the staff have been wonderful. They've been responsive. Code enforcement, Mohammed, has been wonderful. Many of the staff have gotten back to us. Emilio over there. But we have an address in Cottage Hill that's been condemned, and it's been there for maybe now going on almost 7 years. And it's going to be taken down. I just hope that this maintains the attention of the city so that we can help connect buyers and the bank who owns that property, so that we can flip or get that to be a better location, a better home for someone here in the Saybrook area. We did that at 305 Saybrook Avenue, Saybrook View Drive.
Rob, I just want to remind you, I don't want anybody to bring up specific addresses.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. I'm sorry. I apologize for that. So we have been able to do some wonderful things with the city's work. And so I'm just hoping that we might get some assistance there as things funnel out. I know you're doing the best you can. Just want to reiterate to the mayor and to the city council members, as well as your own department, Kevin, that this is a major area of importance for us to get that developed. Thank you very, very much for this opportunity to speak.
Thanks, Rob. I'm going to let Kevin address as much of that. He put a lot on the table, but feel free to address as much as you'd like here.
Again, thank you so much for the positive comments. On that property at Cottage Hill Court, there has been a demo permit issued. And then, obviously when it is rebuilt, it will go through the planning process. Planners will look at it. It will go through all the appropriate reviews with our permit and inspection staff to make sure it's rebuilt as needed. Additionally, dog waste, as you mentioned, it is a huge pollutant of our waterways. We will work with you on trying to get those issues resolved. Additionally, we could work again with our planning staff to look at the green space and see if we can incorporate if the HOA wants to incorporate a dog run on the property. That's something we definitely can work with you on. The CCOC definitely come back Monday night and share your comments once again. Well, thank you, Rob.
Thanks, Kevin. Tech team, if you can bring up Sharon Silverman, please. Sharon, whenever you're ready, go right ahead.
Hi, I'm back again. Kevin, I love you. We know each other pretty well. You do a great job over here. We still seem to have problems with one particular property, and I think you know which one it is. It's a landlord that has his house divided into multiple areas. He still has that. And then, of course, we have that wonderful little wooded area down off of, can I say the street? No, maybe? Down off of Black Opal?
You can say the street, just don't mention a specific property number.
Well, it's not a specific property. Hidden Marsh and Black Opal, that wooded area where we have the encampment. We still have problems there. And the other thing is, you were talking about dog poop. Well, we have doggy drop boxes, as they say, but we still have problems with those. And we keep trying to catch most of the people, but we don't. And we do have a new general manager. He's wonderful. He was the assistant over in the Kentlands. And bulk trash. Can you guys put out some more information with people picking up bulk? Because we have people that love to put out bulk the day after bulk, and they put it on odd corners, and then we have to call our private company to pick it up. And it gets a little strange. But all in all, Kevin, you do a great job. I mean, and also I have to give credit to David El Hawa. He took care of a major property over here that we were having terrific problems with when it was vacant. But, and as far as CCOC, I've already sent my letter in my name, not the community name, because that would not be right. And I have a great deal of against it. And also, to be certain on the CCOC, in 2013, you made a wonderful statement. If you go back to it, it was a long statement actually, and it's noted in my letter about CCOC. And I know that two major properties, two major HOAs, I know are very adamant against it. And I don't see, it's going to cost more than it's worth. And we are a city, we do not need to be in the CCOC. And I know Sid Cat, Sidney Katz, and he's in one of the communities that's against it. And I don't know, I know all this is coming up and we're in the middle of talking about everything as well, but we don't have our meeting this month for another week or so. And then we have, of course, Thanksgiving that breaks us up, and we have our annual meeting coming up on the 3rd of December for elections. And of course, we have our budget meeting coming up on the 9th. But how can we get more from you guys to get rid of our major little problems that you know about? Kevin knows about he knows the properties. But how do we get more help with that particular property? Because I just read something yesterday and I don't recall where.
Jared, do you have another specific question beyond that?
Well, it goes along. The question is, how do we handle that? How do we handle that property? Because it's multiple, the guy is renting out multiple units within his house.
Yeah.
And it's a townhouse. And I just read something that under the HOAs, you're not allowed to do that. And we can't get this guy to stop. Only Kevin can handle it, and you.
Thank you so much for the question. I'm going to let Kevin address it.
Thank you, Sharon, for those comments. Regarding that license rental, it has proven to be difficult over times. I can say that we have done what we can do to get that property up to minimum code standards. The definition of a family is no more than 5 people. So that's where he's capped at. Renting the rooms, we can definitely have a conversation about working with the HOA, and if they have a mechanism mechanism for enforcement purposes, we can work together and trying to resolve that. But I understand it's been a problem over the years. But I guess to wrap it up is we've got it to where it meets minimum code standards. So if something has changed, yeah, definitely let us know so we can take additional enforcement if needed. The encampment area I think you're talking about is in between HOA property and city property. I know I've worked closely with all our departments. I'm in conversation with Public Works, the police, and community services almost daily. And I know we've had homeless services out there. We've had the police out there. We've had Public Works out there. I've been out there myself several times. So when that issue comes up, it just takes a phone call or an email to let us know, and we'll get right on it and get it working and get those people help. And because obviously they need help, and we'll try to get them situated in a safe home. Other than that, your bulk trash, I think Tony Berger and Mark Scafidi will have a little bit more about that coming up here shortly on the new program. But on the enforcement end, again, if it's not picked up or it's unacceptable items, that is turned over to us for enforcement. So if there's debris that's remaining after the pickup, it's again just a notification. We'll do an investigative work. If we can determine who placed the items out, we can ask them to have them removed, or if it's on public right away, we'll get them removed, or if it's on HOA property, the HOA would have to remove those items. Other than that, thank you again for the positive comments for David. He is a fantastic new addition, fairly new addition to city staff and neighborhood services. We stole him from Public Works. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin. And I'll note regarding CCOC, please join us next week for our public hearing on that matter. Next tech team, I see a phone number, it begins with 301, it ends with 009. I'm not sure who this is, so whoever you are, state your name and go right ahead. Are you there? Seems like the phone might be muted.
Hi, everyone. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay. My question is regard to people having dogs at friendly, family-oriented park. What kind of enforcement can the city have, or as neighbor, what kind of right do we have in terms of people bringing dogs such as bulldog to parks that have small children running all over? Even if the dogs are on a leash, that still is a concern. As a parent, I would not want my child to be at a park where someone has their bulldog, sitting around.
Thank you for that question. Kevin, go ahead.
Sure. Our animal control staff, they monitor, they do proactive patrols throughout the city, including our parks. We do welcome dogs in our parks. They must be on a leash and under control of an adult. Again, they should be responsible pet owners. They should know that their dog in and out. They know if their dog's good with kids, take them to the park. Obviously, we need to teach our children to always ask before approaching a dog, especially when they're at that eye level. That could be, being at that eye level could be determined a threat. The dog can interpret that as a threat, and that's why a lot of little kids get bit. But that said, the owners must have physical control of the dog and be on a leash at all times when at our parks. We don't have any breed specific regulations here in Gaithersburg, and nor I think we want to do that because they're all different. All dogs are individuals. we want to make sure that, you know, the dogs are well behaved and the owners take control of their dogs and that they are in control of their animals. And again, if they know their dog, if they know the dog likes to chase bikes or scooters or skateboards, they shouldn't be taking the dog to the park. All owners should know that, and they have a responsibility as being a pet owner to make sure they don't put those people in that position to potentially be harmed. That said, if you see animals running loose in our parks, a simple call. I can give you the non-emergency number for the police. It's just 301. 301. Oh my gosh, I'm forgotten.
279.
301-279-8000. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate that. But that goes right to our animal control dispatch, and officer will be dispatched out. Also, something that I did not mention tonight was that we run a park observer program. We have park observer staff that visit all. Their job is to basically visit all our park properties in the evening hours and on the weekends to make sure things that are appropriate are happening in our parks. And they're basically, again, our eyes and ears, and they let us know what's going on. If there's an issue for the police, they have direct contact with the police. If there's an issue for animal control, they have direct contact with animal control, or they could follow up with code enforcement if there's a need to, if there's graffiti or such in any of our parks. So we do have those programs in place. So I hope that answers your question. I know it's very difficult when the dogs are in the park and it's very crowded. Again, it's just the responsibility of the owner to get the dogs away from any of the chaos of the kids running around that might get them overly excited. Okay.
Thank you, Kevin. Next, we have Susan Wilson, tech team. Susan's got a follow-up. Go right ahead, Susan.
I'm sorry, I must have misclicked. Go to the next person, but thank you so much.
Okay. Well, Mary Hoffreck.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity to speak again. I am concerned about security lights and the fact that they often bleed over into other people's property. And I think, during these last 4 years, people have gotten pretty nervous and many people are afraid. And they've been purchasing lights that, I'm not talking about a normal security light. I'm talking about lights that you could probably land a plane with. I mean, they are intense. They shine over into other people's property. The last one that I knew about, it was shining into someone's bedroom. And I have to say, Kevin has been great about coming out and talking to both parties. And there is a city code or ordinance that says you can't shine your light into someone else's property. It's called nuisance trespassing. But even though he comes out and he talks to people, the bottom line is he's relying on the goodwill of people and his power of persuasion, because there is no enforcement mechanism. There's no fine, there's no whatever people use to enforce these kinds of things. And really, the ordinance needs to be beefed up. We're going to see more of this, I think. And it really is affecting the quality of life in our communities. And I'll follow up on Susan's thing about the leaf blowers. It's one thing to have a neighbor come in and blow their leaves off in about an hour. But if they're going on during the day when people are home working and run it for 4 hours, that's half of a workday. If they run it for 6 hours, that's even more. And I really think that the city needs to address leaf blowers, especially because more people are working at home in our communities and trying to be effective in their work. So one, I think that the ordinance about security lights needs to have enforcement built in other than goodwill. And two, I think we need a noise ordinance during the day, not just at night. And Kevin, thank you very much for all of your efforts for our community. I know it's not just one neighbor, but it's many. And you have been, the guy shows up at night because he's trying to see the lights after his normal work days. He does really a great job. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Mary and Susan, for again those comments. Yes, the trespass lighting is somewhat difficult to enforce. Our code is not real strong, but it's something that me and Tanisha had a quick talk about recently, is updating our property maintenance code, and that would be the opportunity to take a deep dive and strengthen that code. Now, I did want to make it clear is that our code states that you can't directly aim the light at another property causing a nuisance. If the light is angled down, but you happen to look out your window, like if I look at this window now, I see an LED street light right outside. You can still see it, but it's not shining directly in the property. So we got to be careful what we adopt or how we strengthen the code to make sure that we are targeting those nuisance type lights that are really causing a problem.
Hey, Kevin, go right ahead.
Other than that, the leaf blowing, again, there is a county code that directly it impacts what can happen during the day with leaf blowers. And again, I have a good working relationship with Montgomery County DEP, and we can get an officer out there to take some readings and make sure they're within code levels.
Thank you very much, Kevin. So next, we're going to move on to, appreciate all your time, everything you do, Kevin. We're going to move to our presentation on Parks, Recreation, and Culture. Tech team, if you could bring up Carolyn Muller, that would be great. Well, we're bringing up Carolyn. I'll just say the obvious. This is a great time to visit Gaithersburg City Parks. We need to, get some exercise. We need to get out there and, out of our houses and be socially distanced. And we got a lot of great parks in the city with trails and with a lot of nice features for the kids. So this is a great time to visit our parks.
Absolutely, and a great time to move with the mayor. So check out our new video series on moving with the mayor in our city parks and other areas around the city. Thank you. So good evening, Mayor and Council and members of the Gaithersburg community. Parks, recreation, and culture are essential to our community, and the coronavirus pandemic has shed an even brighter light on just how important we are. I like to say that we're one of the few departments that touches everyone in our community, from infants to seniors and everyone in between. Next slide. I would like to briefly highlight several of our key areas. The city of Gaithersburg boasts 30 parks and 13 parks, recreation, and culture facilities within its 10 square miles. As Judd was saying, our parks, like many throughout the country, have become a place of respite for our community during the pandemic. Park visits nationally are at an all-time high, and while some of our facilities have had to remain closed, many are open to the public with gathering restrictions, social distancing, and mask-wearing protocols in place. For example, the customer service desk and fitness zone at the Activity Center at Borough Park are open Monday through Friday from 8 to 4. Staff are assisting walk-in customers and providing information to callers who have questions not only about Parks, Recreation, and Culture information, but citywide services. When the Benjamin Gaither Center, our city senior center, closed in March due to the pandemic, we had 635 members and we're on track to break records for attendance, membership, and fitness center membership. Since then, center staff have made hundreds of wellness calls. They participate in a weekly senior meal distribution program and have created a wealth of new virtual programs, including a new virtual fitness program that features 11 classes each week. Class options are vast and include programs such as weight training, Zumba, and power stretch classes. Participation has averaged around 400 class participants each month. The City Youth Services staff provide year-round out-of-school time opportunities for grades K through 12. We typically offer after-school programs, half-day and school break programs, and our very popular summer camp programs. The Gaithersburg Youth Club, which runs out of our Old Town and Robertson Park Youth Centers, boasts over 500 middle school age members who participate in mentoring, homework club, art, music and video production, fitness, and volunteer opportunities. The Student Union program caters to high school students and has over 400 members who participate in programs such as Soccer for Change, intergenerational programs, volunteer opportunities, college tours, and workforce readiness. The pandemic has obviously made it difficult to gather large groups together, but we have worked hard to meet the needs of the community through a variety of activities. Staff developed a very thorough state and county approved health program to establish COVID-19 protocols for in-person programming. These protocols enabled us to offer a fun zone program for grades 1 through 8 this summer. This was a licensed summer program, licensed through the state, and was offered at 3 city facilities, enabling parents to return to work as we entered phase 2. And we're currently offering study bubble learning hubs for grades 1 through 12 to accommodate students during the virtual learning semester in MCPS, giving students a learning environment with staff available for academic and social emotional support. Now, we all know Gaithersburg is famous for its large signature events, such as the Gaithersburg Book Festival, Summerfest, Oktoberfest, and numerous other events. With social distancing protocols and gathering restrictions in place, staff were able to turn several of our signature events into wonderful virtual programs. In fact, the virtual Gaithersburg Book Festival was so successful that you may see a virtual aspect to it in the years to come. As we move into the winter holiday season, the city has a wealth of programs for children, families, and adults. Enjoy holiday art workshops, preschool stories, cooking classes, a Motown holiday concert, an arts market, and of course, Santa on his tour of Gaithersburg. And we hope you will celebrate the holidays at the 25th anniversary of the Winter Lights display at Seneca Creek State Park. Winter Lights will be open starting November 27th and will run through December 31st, and tickets are available now. The typical year keeps our staff extremely busy between recreation and sports activities, and those same staff have worked very hard to continue to provide a modicum of normalcy for our community throughout the pandemic, realizing how important activity is to support both physical and mental health. Staff have held over 40 recreation classes and 28 sports programs and have served over 650 participants. Utilizing the established health program, staff are planning to offer some indoor fitness classes and sports programs this winter, along with a variety of virtual programs. Registration will open on December 7th for winter recreation classes, and registration is open now for our winter sports programs. Field permitting requests have been very steady and will continue through the winter with an increased demand over previous years. Our skate park, water park, and miniature golf course all opened in July, and we offered extended seasons at all 3. In fact, the skate park will remain open on weekends through the end of this month. Within our parks, recreation, and culture facilities, we typically host a large number of community rentals, which unfortunately have not been able to happen due to gathering restrictions set forth by the county. But we're hopeful that in the coming months, the development and mass distribution of a vaccine will allow for more opportunities for families and groups to gather for weddings, important celebrations, and other in-person meetings. I'm extremely proud of how, in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, Parks, Recreation, and Culture staff swiftly mobilized to keep parks, trails, and green spaces open to support physical and mental health while delivering vital services and programs to support the community. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Carolyn. And we join you in the pride in your department and everything that you guys are doing to keep us tied together and build our culture. I see a couple hands raised. Tech team, if you could bring up, and forgive me, Maria, if I mispronounce it, Maria Arab Shahi.
Yeah, Arab Shahi, that's fine.
Okay.
So I wanted to talk about, and maybe this is the wrong venue and I need to wait, I'm not sure, but I wanted to talk about the CPSC Park, which hasn't been started yet, but is supposed to be started in December, I think. I've been part of the public engagement of that park since the beginning, and I've seen the approved plans. And the city's been very responsive to individual homes whining and complaining about the things that are behind us as we back to the park. And I appreciate all of that. But the part that concerns me is the fact that the city has approved the park without a traffic impact study done. And I think it concerns me for three very quick, very brief reasons that I can kind of tell you about. The first one is that when you read the reports on the traffic impact section of the park report, it's very contradictory. It says that the new park, the way it's planned, is only going to incur 7 daily trips per day to the park. And if that's actually true, then I don't understand why the city would have created 60 parking spaces for the 9-acre park, which makes it the second largest parking lot per acre for any park in the city of Gaithersburg. And then the second reason why I think the traffic impact really needs to be looked at is that the report fails to recognize that every car that goes into that park must make a U-turn somewhere on Darnestown Road, either to enter the park or to exit the park the way they came. So this alone, if you're thinking about 60 cars, is going to have a huge impact on 28. It's also going to have a huge impact on Treeworthy Road, which is the very first road that every single car has to pass as soon as they leave the park. So it's very enticing to want to pull into Treeworthy Road, especially if you want to go the wrong, go a different way, pull into somebody's driveway, turn around.
So Maria, I think we understand the question. Yeah. Did you have anything more besides the traffic impact?
Yeah, well, just the third. No, it's really the traffic impact is really important. There was no traffic after 4 p.m. or on any weekends for 20 years. So, the report that was written did not reflect that at all. That place has been gated for 20 years, so there has been no traffic after 4 p.m. on weekdays. So that was one question. And then the other question about the park was, we've been told many times that all the city parks are sunrise to sunset. And we just wanted to make sure that in that park, it would also be sunrise to sunset. I've seen at Lakelands Park, there's big, huge lights. There's plenty of activity after sunset there. And since this one seems to have been planned very similarly to Lakelands Park, I worry that somebody's trying to do evening hours there. But thank you. Those are my two concerns.
Thank you very much. Carolyn,
okay.
Go right ahead.
I'll start with the easier one, which is the hours of the park. So we are planning for the park at CPSC to be sunrise to sunset. That I will say we may have some special events that may take place, but it is not a park where we will be putting in any athletic fields or those types of lights. There will be some lights in the parking area, but there will not be lights actually throughout the park. So I think that you will find that it will truly be a sunrise to sunset opening of that park. As far as the traffic impact study, I would need to talk with Public Works to go back and look through what was researched.
We understand. So I'll just say to Maria, if you want to reach out to Carolyn, that's fine. If you want to reach out to any one of us, I'm sure we'll put you in touch with either Public Works or Dennis Enslinger, our Deputy City Manager, to discuss in more detail the traffic impact. As it stands now, we're still, I think, at least 2 or 3 years away before that park is going to open. So we have some time to work these things out. Tech team, if you could bring up Susan Wilson, please. And Susan, whenever you're ready.
Hi, Carolyn. I know you must get kudos every day for the great work that you do. I'm a really active runner, about 25, 30, 40 miles a week. And the group that I run with, we've been running through the COVID. We go from park to park to park. But I want to let you know that yesterday I was on my run and went through Discovery Park for the first time. So I passed this little kid who was in a mobile wheelchair. He's clearly has mobility issues. And of course you say hi to the dog because it's what you always do. And I asked the little kid, probably about 5, what do you think of this park? And he said, this is my favorite place. I'm going to come here every day for my whole life. So thank you for the work that you do. You made one kid and one very old person very, very happy. Thank you.
Oh, that is wonderful to hear. Thank you, Susan. And as with all of our projects, we definitely couldn't do it without it being a team effort. So Public Works gets a lot of kudos on that as well. So thank you very much.
What a sweet story. You also want to thank our partners at AstraZeneca who donated part of the land for that park. It was a great partnership. I don't see any other hands up at the moment. I see one hand up. I see a couple. Never mind. Okay, we'll go to Rob Krebs, please. Tech team.
Carolyn and Mr. Mayor, just a shout out, please, to Carolyn Miller. We have a large pool, and we're going through all of the conniptions about developing whether we're going to open or not. We had really very few people to really be trusted and call and talk to, and Carolyn opened up and made her staff available to us about what they were doing about the pool, how they were preparing. And I just I'm sorry, I don't want to sound like I'm being a sycophant to you, but I tell you, she was awesome. She really was. And kudos again to your staff and to all of the city council for your decisions in that regard.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so glad we were able to help.
And we'll move on to Tech Team Carolyn Bass, please. Carolyn, whenever you're ready, go right ahead.
Hi, I want to thank Carolyn as well. Just because our names are the same doesn't necessarily mean that we would be the best of friends, but we really are. And so I want to thank her for all the work that she does with the Senior Center. And I just wanted to take a moment to make a statement, if I could. And as senior community members, whether working or retired, whether longtime residents or new to our wonderful city, as we heard someone earlier say that they were from Bethesda, and welcome, we're looking for ways to engage with others of a similar age. And we also would like to spark new interests for our seniors. Social isolation, I feel, is something that people of all ages and income levels can experience, and something we need to address, which I think Parks and Recreation is doing a very good job of. We're thankful that even during this pandemic, our Benjamin Gaither Center with reduced and shared staff continues to provide interesting and stimulating activities for us. The staff is continually seeking to provide, as Carolyn has already said, both virtual and off-site activities to address our physical and mental health needs. One concern that I would like to see addressed, if at all possible, is the current condition of the BGC. And I know Mary alluded to her idea of, our senior center and what we hope to accomplish in getting a new senior center for the city of Gaithersburg. For years, we have sought to relocate to a new or updated existing location, which could provide us with the space and parking that we need. In the meantime, due to COVID restrictions, our building, of course, is closed. And right now, some required structural plumbing issues are being addressed while, the membership is not there. But I also would like to know, since this would be a prime time to do some much needed maintenance and some updates, if some of these things could not be done while the center is closed. Our Senior Advisory Committee will be making their presentation later this month, and they will be outlining some of these things that we would like to see have happen to make our center more inviting, more updated, to refresh it, and to encourage new membership. So completing these updates now without the disruption of daily and ongoing activities would really be helpful. So I'm asking you to consider this idea. And I know that funding, of course, is going to be part of this, and budget constraints and issues. But if there is a way to do this, we would certainly most appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carolyn, and thanks for your work on our Senior Advisory Committee. Carolyn Muller, I'll put it in your court if you want to respond to that.
Well, first of all, thank you very much, Carolyn. I did tell you when we first met, I knew we'd be great friends just because of our names. But we have had some preliminary discussions with Public Works to see what we can and perhaps cannot get done during the time that we are closed. So we are working on a few different potential projects. Like you mentioned, obviously budget is always a concern, and especially right now, it's even more of a concern. So we are trying to see what we can do, what we can pull together and get updated while there's no one in the building.
And with that, I don't see any more hands up for questions on Parks and Rec. So I'm going to say thank you to you, Carolyn Muller.
Thank you.
And I will invite our tech team to bring up Dan Lane from our police department, and we will move on to our police presentation. Welcome, Dan.
Good evening, everyone. Okay, so again, my name is Dan, and I am the Community Services Officer for the Gaithersburg Police Department. Lost my thing here. Sorry. My job is to serve as a liaison between our department and the communities that we serve. And I accomplish this by working with you all in other respective offices and units. So for example, let's talk about the inquiry about Lake Forest and the surrounding area. So when we see reports from people who have called the police at the non-emergency number of 301-279-8000, or I've received calls in my office at 301-258-6168, or by email for such incidents like theft from autos, traffic concerns, or other incidents of a significant nature occurring at the mall or at other properties around it, I work with our crime analysts to pull the reports and then to pull crime patterns and trends to review them. And then I also work with our county counterparts in the community services office to discuss those issues and concerns that they're hearing from the apartment complexes or those businesses. And this is the same approach that we take with everything across the city in an effort to make sure that we address those concerns and those issues in a timely manner and with a reasonable solution. So another example, for example, is we work with neighborhood services. Neighborhood services, when we get complaints of, for example, you call the police about a neighborhood issue of noise complaints with your neighbor. You've called the non-emergency number several times and it still continues. I'll reach out to Kevin Roman and his staff, and then we'll find a way to kind of reach out to that homeowner to try to educate them on our city ordinances in an effort to educate before we go into the enforcement effort. So things like that we try to work together on. And then we try to follow up with our communities to make sure we've addressed it in a way that works for both. Our office is also responsible for sending out messages to our communities and our property managers via listservs, Facebook, or Nextdoor. So if you're on Nextdoor, we are on there. We try to discuss crime trends and patterns along with crime prevention efforts. So for example, right now in the city, our #1 property crime are theft from autos. And as a result, what we're seeing in many of these cases is that people are leaving vehicles unlocked, and then they're leaving purses, laptops, money, and tools left in plain sight. And again, these are crimes opportunities. So these individuals are just pulling on door handles and looking in. So what we're asking everyone to do is to lock their car doors and remove such items from their vehicles. Other things that we have in our office, next slide please, is Site. You can sign up for citizen information and traffic enforcement, where you can kind of tell us about what you're seeing. So if you see a motor vehicle violation here in the city, you can send us that information with a tag number, date, and location. And then what we'll do is we'll send a letter to that registered owner in an effort to educate them and try to correct that behavior. We also have the Internet Purchase Exchange location. It's in front of our station. We have 2 spots designated in partnership with OfferUp. They donated signs to us where people can come and then do their transactions in a safe manner. We also have our prescription drop box in our station lobby. That's available all year round. We've had just recently our drug take back on the 24th last month, where we were able to work with Asbury and our station and collected a good amount of unwanted drugs. So getting those out of cabinets and things. We also have the security camera registration program. This is where residents and businesses can register their cameras with us. And then it gives us the opportunity to be able to reach out and ask about them checking their cameras to see what incidents or things like that occurred around them. We've had this program in place for a few years now. It's been very successful. We also partnered with Ring through the Neighbors app. So we're on that as well and able to communicate with our residents. We also have the Police Cadet program. That is for individuals who are 18 years of age and older. They are registered full-time in college and have an interest in becoming a police officer for the Gaithersburg Police. So if there's anybody that you know who fits that description, our process is open. We currently have 3 cadets now. But if you have other things, ideas about what we can do, such as the programs, we know we're trying to do some more on next door. So for example, we're looking at some new informational things. If there's things that you're seeing out there that you would like us to try out, please feel free to reach out to me. If there's concerns or issues that you're seeing and you want to discuss it, again, please feel free to reach out to me at home, my phone number or at my email. And then if there's traffic concerns or parking complaints, you can reach out to our news traffic sergeant, Sergeant Lester Rice, at his email or phone, and then we're able to address those issues. Thank you guys. I'll take questions.
Thank you very much, Officer Lane. We will move to questions from the public. And tech team, if you could bring up Michael Dennis, please. And Michael, whenever you're ready, just go right ahead.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Michael Dennis. I'm with Timberbrook Condominium in Gaithersburg, and I wanted to speak with the police department and Officer Lane and Officer Rice about speed checks on Muddy Branch Road. I have written to both of you all twice since the pandemic began about the increased speeding of vehicles on Muddy Branch Road between Great Seneca Highway and East Deer Park. I wrote once when the pandemic began and received a response saying that the police department was busy with other issues due to the pandemic and they couldn't do much about reinstating the speed check. The speed check is one which normally occurs at Muddy Branch Road and School Drive. There's usually an officer there, sometimes every day, sometimes a couple times a week, and they're usually with the speed gun and they check on cars traveling on that part of the road. Once the pandemic started, that stopped. So I wrote right after the pandemic started saying that speed limits on Muddy Branch Road have increased probably 10 to 15 miles an hour, sometimes 30 miles an hour over the speed limit. I drive on that road and walk on it every day. I'm telling you, the speed limit now is probably between 60 and 65, most of the time when it's posted at 45. The second time I wrote was after the fatal collision at Muddy Branch Road and Deer Park. And at that time, I received a response back from either you or Sergeant Rice. Excuse me, I'm not supposed to use names, I know, but you mentioned it already. Saying that we were going to put that back in, speed check back in. Well, that hasn't happened. Since that last response, it's probably been about a month or two, there's been exactly one speed check. And that the officer who was there was probably just sitting there to see if his presence for his marked car would have some marked effect, because he was working on a computer, wasn't doing anything else. And the speed limits on the cars, from the cars on Muddy Branch Road is still probably 10 to 15 miles an hour over and above what the posted speed limit is. And just like to know when you will bring those speed checks back there and start issuing tickets again. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So it is on our list. As you can imagine, since we've come back from back into service with a little bit, picking up a lot more of check on patrols and things like that, we're trying to hit as many as we can in a timely manner. So Muddy Branch is on there. We've been there a couple of times before. I can't give you a specific date of when we're going to be out there. One, we don't want people knowing and then slowing down and not violating the law they are. But more so of the fact that we try to spread it out. We try to focus our check on patrols roughly around a 2-week time frame. or we do spot checks on them based on what the data we're getting from patrol. We don't look specifically just at one time, because when an officer stops them, if they're done in 1 hour, we may go back that same hour and not see anything. So a lot of it's based on what we're pulling from our data to see when's the best time for us to be there. But I will speak with Sergeant Rice about that and find out if we can get out there within the next few weeks or so.
Thank you very much for that question. We'll go to Rob Krebs.
Officer Dan, thank you very much for what you've done for us here at Saybrook. Again, Judd, thanks to his whole crew. They came out for Halloween. We had Chris Leach out here, wonderful, wonderful guy for our Halloween event here. It really made it special. Got a couple of problems, Dan, and I'm sure you're hearing this from next door and other places, but I want to let you know that I'm just getting earfuls of it every week, and I hear it myself. I wanted to know if modified exhaust systems are legal in the state of Maryland, and what the officers can do along Mid-County from Goshen to 124, and then at that stoplight they do 124 up to Emory Grove, and it's always around 8 o'clock at night and at 10 o'clock at night. They're really, really, really loud. I don't think they're speeding, and it's both motorcycles and cars, but the next door lights up with it every time it happens, and it's happened regularly. I wanted to know what you might be able to do. And then secondly, regarding speed cameras, I know that they have one further down on Mid-County Highway on the county does towards the light at Shady Grove. But is it possible to move some of the speed cameras either up that hill by Saybrook View, by Saybrook Estates, or before they get to the 124 traveling south on Mid-County, so that they can discourage them, and then on Mid-County, and further, the third question is there any way that the community itself can work with the city to get a speed camera installed either on Saybrook Oaks or on Saybrook View Drive? We, I think, would be of the mind of working with the city to get some additional enforcement just by picture, by photo enforcement if we can't get the manpower, and we know that you guys are stretched and do a great job. But is there any way that can be worked out? So 3 questions for you, Dan. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. Tech team, if we could bring Lieutenant Vance on. So I'm going to talk about the 2 speed cameras, and then I'm going to have Lieutenant Vance discuss the modified exhaust and our efforts there. So on the speed camera questions, Mr. Krebs, so we have a strict policy with the state that we have to do a couple studies in order to make sure that it meets a certain criteria. What I will do is I will talk with our speed camera liaison and our Sergeant Rice to discuss what that criteria is, and then if we can look at that area. I believe we looked at it before and it didn't meet the requirement then, but absolutely we can take a look at it again and see. So that will cover both the Saybrook and the Mid-County camera questions. And then Lieutenant Vance, would you mind?
Hi, thank you for the question, Rob. So the loud exhaust in the speeding cars, we have found that issue is connected to the car meetups that are occurring in and around Gaithersburg City. And this has been an issue that is a regional issue. And one of their spots that they've been going to frequently for the last 2 years is 124 Park and Ride Lot. To address this issue, to address those individual car meetups, it takes a lot of personnel, and sometimes we don't have enough people individually to do it. So we've reached out and started a collaborative strategy with Montgomery County Police, Maryland State Police, Rockville City Police are even coming up and helping, and Maryland Transportation Authority, so that we are addressing each of these car meetups. And whenever we find out on social media that they are occurring, we create a detail and we all work together so we can address the issue. And what we do is we go into the lot, we do a controlled dispersal of the crowd, And then we do reasonable enforcement of observed traffic violations that we see to try to address the problem, and so that the public is safe, so we don't have a bunch of cars racing around and noise complaints from the loud exhaust. Since we started this effort, we've had 3 car meetups in the city. The first one was on September 15th at the 124 Park and Ride. And during that one, we had 300 cars show up. We did a controlled dispersal, and we ended up, the Gaithersburg police ended up making 23 traffic stops. During those traffic stops, we did traffic citations, traffic warnings, equipment repair orders. We did one driver reevaluation through the MVA. We issued 1 criminal citation and 1 juvenile referral for the loud exhaust noise ordinance. So we addressed that issue, and we also met with the organizers. We located the organizers at the scene and talked with them and educated them about what the ongoing efforts that the police we were going to do at that location whenever we're going to have a car meetup from there on. And what we're trying to do is get them to voluntarily start relocating these meetups somewhere outside the city, so that we're not causing all these issues in and around the area. October 30th, we went a month and a half without a car meetup after that incident. And then October 30th, we had our second one. It was again at the 124 Park and Ride. During that one, we only had to issue 5 traffic citations and 5 warnings, and we were able to disperse the crowd and stop the problem of cars racing on the streets and stuff. Our last one was this weekend, Saturday, and in this one, same location, we proactively put on social media that we're going to have a detail, and that and the result was we only had 1 car show up, and so we were able to handle the issue with no traffic stops, no warnings, and the car organizers actually changed the location of the meetup to another location in the region, presumably because of our detail that we planned and announced. So I think we're having an impact on those car meetups so that they're not occurring as frequently. For another thing that we can do whenever we have ongoing issues is Dan has talked about the check on patrols. Recently, we had one in the Saybrook neighborhood in Mid-County for speeding cars and loud exhaust. We checked the area for 2 months. It was September 23rd and November 10th. Officers from every shift was checking on that multiple times a day. And although we didn't see a lot of actual true speed violations that we were observing, we did find other violations. And in the month of October, we actually made 3 DUI arrests in that area. So that was productive. And if you're continuing to have further concerns over there, continue to communicate with Dan Lane. We can evaluate further check on patrols. And if you guys are hearing stuff, at night, at 10 o'clock at night, an ongoing problem, call the non-emergency number 301-279-8000. That will get a patrol officer to come out right then and there. If you email Dan the next day, Dan's not going to be able to do anything about the cars at 10 o'clock at night that night. But if you call 279-8000, we'll be out. And our patrol officers, we have a lot of check on patrols. We have a lot of calls that we're going to, but we're going to try to find, address the issues that are occurring. So it's very important that you communicate with us, continue to communicate with us. We'll try to be as responsive as possible, and we can solve any problem that your community has.
Thanks for chiming in there, Chris. Much appreciated. So tech team, let's take the next call, which is a phone number, begins with 240, ends with 294. Caller, go right ahead.
Hi, this is Adita again. I just have just curious about some advice. Earlier this morning, about 8:30, I noticed a person walking through the neighborhood trying everybody's car door. So, my first instinct was to get myself together and go outside, which probably wasn't a good idea. But by the time I got out there, this person was gone anyway. So I'm curious as to if I see someone doing something like that and they've already left, is there any point to calling law enforcement at that time if they're already out of the neighborhood?
Great question. So absolutely, calling us still. So to, again, when you call, you tell us, hey, I'm at, 100 block of Main Street, and I observed a unknown individual pulling on the door handles. I last saw them walking down Main Street to, right corner somewhere. It gives us an idea on what we're able to do when officers are dispatched to that area. They're able to hit that area, that area there and take a look. The other thing is we're able to look at our calls for service from previous times to go, okay, that person's been in that time in that area. They're there at this time frame, and then we're able to set up things. The other thing is also we may be already have an officer in the area, kind of just doing speed or doing a report, and absolutely be the person seeing them walk by. So absolutely, if you see them, call us. It helps us be able to dispatch an officer to that call.
Thanks for that question. Next, we'll go tech team. If you can bring up Monica Marquina, who we all know and spent a lot of time in service to our community. Monica, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you for that welcome. I appreciate that. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Monica Marquina. I'm a proud resident of the Pheasant Run community. I would like to request the police department to look at the possibility of doing speed monitoring along Clopper. Several years ago, there was an effort to monitor speed right outside Orchard Hills community. And now with the increased volume of vehicles accessing the Watkins-Mill Road interchange, we've noticed quite an uptick on people speeding up the hill. So either a speed board or some other type of speed mechanism, or just even a patrol officer to get people to slow down would be greatly appreciated.
Yep. Thank you, Monica. We'll definitely put that on there.
All right. Next, tech team, you can bring up Sharon Silverman. Sharon, whenever you're ready, go right ahead.
Okay, my question has to do with Mid-County Highway. We have racing on Mid-County that normally starts somewhere between 8:30 and 9 o'clock at night, every night. They're loud, they're noisy. It's not just cars, it's motorcycles, and they are flying. And I live about maybe less than 700 feet from Mid-County, and so does the other side of my development. We all hear it. And there, oh, by the way, whoever the other person was saying that there was a speed camera on Mid-County, there is no speed camera on Mid-County in front of Shady Grove Middle School. It's been gone for about 6 months now. We need speed cameras on that road. This all occurs at night, not during the day or anything else like that. It occurs at night, and they are racing from basically Pierpoint Road, where there was a death by an accident because of speeding, up there, and it goes straight on down the straightaway all the way down to the school sometimes, because the speed limit from Montgomery Village Avenue down to Goshen is 50. Below Goshen is 40, and then it goes a little bit slower in front of the school. But that's the speed limit. It goes 50, 40, and a little lower. They're putting up lights, street lights all along Mid-County, but they're not doing anything about speed. We've got traffic lights. We have cameras at Goshen and Mid-County for running, turning the corners, but not for speed. But they're up on the poles. Everybody knows they're there and goes from there. But what can we do? Because I called last night, 11 o'clock, there was speeding. And my window was slightly open, and I mean, it was loud. And I know there's a car, I've seen it. It's a black car. I have no idea what kind it is. No grill, nothing, and he's definitely got glass packs on it. These people are modifying their cars, and they are loud. What can we do, Dan?
So again, we'll do a check on patrol for it. I'll work with our county counterparts. Again, it's on Mid-County Highway at Pierpoint, going towards Shady Grove, which goes outside the city. We'd have to work with them. But again, in reference to the speed cameras, that's going to be we'll have to do our studies to see if it meets the criteria. And see whether or not they can be deployed. But yep, we'll definitely put on the list to talk. I appreciate you guys letting me know the time frames of later in the evening. That helps us immensely, because again, when we get at these kind of complaints, that they're vague, so it's all hours kind of thing. So giving us a better time frame to look at helps.
Thank you, Dan. I don't see any more hands raised for police. So we will we'll say thanks once again to Dan Lane and move on to Public Works. Tech team, if you could bring up Tony Berger, that would be great. While Tony's coming up, I'll just note to everyone that This is as everyone knows from things that have gone on. Unfortunately, they've gone on, but things that happened outside of our city. It's been a very difficult time. Been a difficult few years to be a police officer, and we remain very proud of the record of interactions with the public, with our police department, as well as the policies that have been implemented over the years with our police department. We're really proud of it, and I hope you are too. Next, we're going to talk about Public Works, and we have our Acting Director of Public Works, Tony Berger.
Thank you, Judd. As Judd just said, I'm the Acting Director of Public Works. It brings me great pleasure tonight to share with you a little bit about the service that our group delivers that helps make Gaithersburg, as Judd always says, the greatest city in the world. Our mission at Public Works is to improve the quality of life in the city by maintaining and preserving the city's infrastructure, parks, and facilities in an attractive and safe condition. Public Works staff are dedicated to and take pride in providing high quality and cost-effective services to our customers. Public Works is organized into four different divisions. The Engineering Service Division supports the city's strategic plan by employing key strategies of preserving and maintaining the local transportation infrastructure. We're focused on ensuring safety on our neighborhood roads and work to deliver capital improvement projects that improve our roadways, bridges, culverts, and streetlights. We have a strong commitment to a viable transportation system that provides to all users. We also take a lead role in promoting sustainable communities through our recycling program and other sustainability initiatives. Another division is the Facilities and Capital Improvements Division, the Capital Projects Division. This division improves and maintains public facilities and capital assets. With an eye on sustainability, the Facility Division plans and executes projects that maintain, improve, and grow the city's infrastructure that provides necessary programs and services. Along with managing operating costs through the use of green technologies, the Facilities Division also maintains a planned life cycle analysis replacement program for major equipment and building components through the use of individual building maintenance plans. Next slide, please. Our Stormwater Division is the city's leader in preserving and maintaining our network of natural resources, open spaces, and environmental infrastructure. This is accomplished by maintaining a balanced stormwater management program, conducting public education programs, working at preventing pollution, and protecting and improving water resources through watershed management plans that incorporate stream protection and restoration. The last division is our Operations Division. This group is the city's driving labor force behind the attractiveness of our city. Seasonal priorities shape our time of year focus. During the spring and summer seasons, we're focused on street sidewalk repairs, landscaping efforts, park maintenance, and regular mowing throughout the city. When fall arrives, obviously our focus turns to loose leaf collection. When fall turns to winter, we shift gears into winter operations. Additionally, the Operations Division provides bulk trash pickup and street sweeping year-round. I brought with me tonight Mark Scafidi, he's the Operations Division Chief, and Ms. Beth Forbes, who heads up our Stormwater Division, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that you have at this time.
Thank you, Tony. I see one hand raised. Tech team, if you could bring up Bob Brady, please. Bob, whenever you're ready, go right ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Ashman. There's a small stream that comes out of the NIST property, runs down behind Bethany Presbyterian Church and alongside West Riding and behind Brown Station School. About 3 years ago, we had a meeting up at the Robinson Park Youth Center where the Parks Department presented some alternatives for restoring the banks, preserving the banks of that stream. And since that time, I haven't heard anything. So I wonder if there's anything in the works to take care of that stream bed.
Brian, if you could bring in Beth. Hi, Beth, do you think you could help with this question?
Beth, you're muted, but I just want to make, did you hear the question?
Yes, I did. That's the Solitaire Stream Restoration Project. It's still in design. We hope to have it in construction next year. We can mobilize before June 15th, but we can't start working in the stream until June 15th. We should have it out for construction bid sometime in the spring around March.
Thank you for that answer. We'll move on to Susie Ward, tech team. Susie, whenever you're ready, go right ahead.
Thank you. I just have two questions. I think I'm talking to the right group. I was just wondering what exactly is going on across from the post office in that building and parking lot where there's construction and whatever they're doing. I'm just curious. And my other question, do you want me to tell you both at the same time?
Yeah, go right ahead, Susie.
I'm just wondering if it's possible to overseed in Duval Park because the grass has become rather sparse, and if it's at all moist there, I don't really like to walk in there because there's a lot of mud. It's not very much grass anymore, so I'm just wondering if maybe we could do something to overseed it so that we could have more grass in the park itself. Thank you.
That question right there is exactly why we do this. such a very narrow, specific question. I could answer the question about right across from the post office. That's 16 South Summit Avenue. That used to be an office building. It was purchased by the city a few years ago. It will be a municipal building. It will be the headquarters of our police department, and we will be moving our mayor and council chambers there as well. It should open hopefully at some point in mid next year. And then, Tony, did you want to bring up Mark Scafidi to talk about the overseeding, or do you want to talk about that?
Well, actually, I'd like to bring up Mark Scafidi, but I think I can answer the question. And my response, Susie, would be if you could follow up with us with an email at publicworks@gaithersburgmb.gov, we'd appreciate it. And that way we can talk to you about specifically Duval Park, and if there's certain locations, or if it's, try to determine a little bit more of the extent of the overseeing that needs to take place there. I'm sure Mark is going to be more than agreeable to trying to address those concerns. That's the kind of thing, like Judd said, that's an everyday occurrence for us, but we want to make sure we get the right things accomplished for you.
Mark, did you want to add anything to that?
Yes, so we'll overseed it in the spring, and we'll overseed it with a shady mix, which will help. Duval Park is very, very shady with a lot of older, large, mature trees. So it's a little tough to grow grass in there, but we'll work on it in the springtime.
Perfect, thank you. Tech team, if you could bring up Robert Rogers, please. Robert, go right ahead whenever you're ready.
Thank you. One more question for you all tonight. Regarding bike lanes, I don't know, I assume that you deal with this since it's dealing with streets and sidewalks, but I'm concerned. I love the new bikeway along Quince Orchard Road. Wonderful, wonderful bikeway. The only problem is it stops dead cold at Clopper and Diamond. And then if you want to go up to North Frederick, you're taking your life in your hands because there's no crossing, no pedestrian or bike crossing right there on the east side of the Clopper and the Diamond and Quince Orchard Road. And then you have to cross over to get on the sidewalk to go into the railroad bridge and then the interstate bridge. And then you get up to Frederick Road, and then there's no crossing up there to get over to the other side of North Frederick Road. And so the question is there a plan for developing a long-range bike route that would be safe and connected to connect the Quince Orchard up to the Lake Forest area?
Tony, do you feel comfortable handling that? Because I could bring up Dennis Enslinger to speak to that, and I see Neil Harris's hand as well.
I'll get first crack. I would let you know that we do have a number of projects that we are currently working on. We do not have an active project to address specifically what you're asking for, but I do think that there's some possibilities out there.
Okay, we'll go to Neil, and then tech team, if you could bring up Dennis Enslinger too.
So
Neil,
I've
go
been
ahead.
working with the transportation committee that the city operates with citizen volunteers for a number of years. And we've identified a number of areas where bike paths could be improved, including Quince Orchard Boulevard. There's another project that will be underway before too long along Washingtonian Boulevard near the Rio Center. We've identified a number of areas where safe bicycling suddenly becomes unsafe when you have to cross a major artery. And we're working with Dennis Enslinger and various consultants to determine plans to bridge those areas. So we're looking to build a series of not only bike paths, but just connecting neighborhoods where there are low stress streets that you can ride safely and end up with a network throughout the city. But it's going to take some time because these projects are complex and somewhat pricey. So at that point, I'll turn it over to Dennis.
As Neil pointed out, we do have a number of projects that are underway. One of the issues, with the new, what we would call the NIST path on Quinch Orchard Road, that was actually a joint project between SHA, the city, and NIST. So one of the difficulties we have with some of the roads that you're talking about is we don't have jurisdiction over those roads. Those are actually either owned by the state and in some cases the county. So it takes us a little bit longer to try to work through those projects. And honestly, the NIST path, the council members will attest to, has probably started before I got here, and that was 7 years ago. So it does take some logistics, working with everybody to make sure we can find a project that works with all the property owners and that we can build out.
Thank you, Dennis. Move on. I see we have another question from Monica Marquina. Monica, go ahead whenever you're ready.
Thank you again. And I want to preface this with the understanding that I do appreciate that all the city's work on getting Watkins Mill Road interchange open. I'm a little biased to that, but I did want to bring up a concern that I had with the traffic pattern there. I would like city staff to be able to maybe work with the county or the state, whoever has jurisdiction over Clopper Road, to look at installing a left turn signal into Pheasant Run. Currently, based on the way the road is, the curvature of the road, and the line of sight issues, it makes it very precarious to turn left. As a mother of two novice drivers and a mature driver myself, I'm really concerned about not having that left turn signal going into Pheasant Run from Clopper. Additionally, if it a right turn only from Clopper from Pheasant Run onto Clopper Road, leaving the Pheasant Run community, if that can be evaluated. That is a city road, and those are two suggestions that I would just like the city to look into and to work with the county to see if that's possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Tony, did you want to speak
Absolutely.
to that?
Monica, I'm very happy to report to you that is actually already being looked at. We've had a couple of different requests to look at that intersection to make sure that the turn movements are what are considered appropriate for what traffic is currently being seen out there. So SHA has been brought into the conversation, and they are actively looking at that. I would expect to actually have some information back from them sometime before Christmas, hopefully, on some of the results of that. So, long story short, it is actually already being looked at.
Great. Next, Rob Krebs, please.
Tony, thank you very much for the idea of the bulk pickup. I want to thank you for your presentation on that. And also, I know a number of homes here in Saybrook have commented about how great an idea that is, so they don't have to wait until the day of the pickup and then they forget to put it out. So they're happy to be able to make the call, put the stuff out, and make the arrangement with you. I hope that that's going well for you elsewhere, but I just want to thank you for that. I do have just a slight question I want to ask you about. If you go in the Kelly Park area, the back part of the park, the eastern part, if you walk down below the Cal Ripken beautiful park that the Gaithersburg people take care of very, very beautifully, by the way, and you go down there past the bottom baseball diamond, there's a bridge over to this little pocket of Gaithersburg land that is kind of shared with Washington Grove and ours. And there's a crushed a tube that is now blocked completely, and so the water that comes out of the comes out of the Washington Grove lake and that spring-fed lake, and when it rains, it comes down there, now floods that bottom area for dog walkers and for people who are jogging in the park. I was just wondering if anything is in the plans to replace that pipe, or if there's something that the citizens can do with you. I know that there are people interested in Saybrook addressing this, like volunteering time, and I know Washington Grove has a construction committee and water control committee has called me to ask me, how we could get involved in this. And so I'm just taking this opportunity to ask the city if without evoking a 2-year environmental study before we can get something done, is there anything that we might be able to do on a volunteer basis if we got a grant or something where we gave you the receipts and we were able to go in and put a new 18-inch corrugated pipe thing there?
Rob, I think we've got the question. Did you have anything else? Okay.
I'm gonna let Mark speak to this first, and then if Beth has anything she'd like to add.
Yeah, so probably about 25 years ago that we couldn't get access over there. So we dropped a piece of corrugated pipe in there. So it has been replaced once, but it's really something that we can't just put a piece of pipe into a creek anymore. So we will be working with the Stormwater Division and getting, if we need to get state approval. If you notice last year, we did a little work on the third base side of the field to try and get the water to go around more and not there. But it's an undersized pipe, and all the leaves and sticks and debris come down from, oh, good grief. No, I can't think of it. From the pond area, it gets washed down and then it clogs up that pipe there. And then the water ends up going around it. But we'll work with our Stormwater Division, take a look at it, and see what we need to do to put a new piece of pipe in there.
Tony, go right ahead. Thank you, Mark. Next, we have Marvin Lynch, please, tech team.
Good evening. I also want to commend the Public Works Department for the change in the bulk pickup process. I've utilized it already myself, and I think it's great. Just had a question as to, I know it's only been a couple of months, so how effective do you think it's been? Have people truly picked up on the fact that they no longer put their bulk stuff out on the day that other things get picked up and all, and are they complying with it as well as you had hoped by this time?
Mark, I'll let you just,
Okay.
I'm going to start by saying that I can't take any of the credit for the changes to the bulk pickup program. There was a lot of people involved in that decision, and it really was a good one. But I think Mark is probably the most appropriate.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Marvin. It's really been something I've wanted to do for many, many years, because what we were doing is we were driving 4 large trucks down every single street searching for bulk. And now with the call-in program, we can be more precise and more focused and actually go to the locations on the right day to the right address and collect the bulk. It's really helping out with the illegal dumping problems. So we were having problems of people knowing that it's Monday's bulk pickup, so they would just go to Saybrook or somewhere, and then they would just dump their bulk on the side of the road. Well, that's not happening very much anymore. So it's, we've really contained a lot of the illegal dumping. A lot of the residents are happy because if they buy a new mattress or a new piece of furniture and they don't have to wait a month to do it, if they're in Saybrook, they can just call and say, hey, I would like a bulk pickup on the following Monday, and we come out and get it. So it's really, really been a big success so far. And, I hope it continues to be. We're saving quite a few man hours also, where it used to take 8 to 10 guys every single month, a whole week to do it. We just send 2 employees out every single day to do bulk pickup and metal recycling. So it's really turning out to be a good program, and the residents are doing a fantastic job of catching on to it quickly, working with us, and working together in a good partnership.
Marvin, whenever you're ready, go right ahead. Thank you, Mark. Next, we have Susan Wilson, Tech Team.
Hi. Yeah, thanks. Very briefly, I'd like to pile on with what Monica was saying. If you're on Watkins Mill and you're about ready to cross over Clopper Road to get onto Pheasant Run, a very easy solution that I've been kind of thinking about is just put a left turn, go straight, and a right turn sign up there. It clarifies the road lanes, and I don't see people wondering where they need to be. Very simple. Thank you so much.
Susan, go ahead. Thank you, Susan. Tony, you're
Sure,
working on
absolutely.
that.
And actually, that request has been received already too in our office. We asked SHA to look at that. SHA did provide lane markings for the left turn lanes. And actually, I do want to point out that when you're coming out of Pheasant Run onto Clopper Road, it is a dedicated left through lane and a through right. It's not a dedicated right turn lane currently. The traffic will bear what the appropriate lane assignments should be. But again, that will come as SHA completes their evaluation for the turning movements there.
All right, thank you very much. I don't see any more hands up, so we're going to move on to the next part of our agenda, but I want to say thanks to our Public Works team, and thanks to Dennis for being with us for this segment. And next we have from the city manager, and this is because Tanisha is new. Many people who are on this call haven't met Tanisha in person yet. In fact, we've only seen her a couple of times in person because it's a pandemic. But I wanted to give her a couple minutes to introduce herself.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't want to take a lot of time. We've had a great, rich dialogue tonight. I know we've got a little more program left to go. So just want to say thanks so much for bringing me to this wonderful city. And if anything has reassured me that this is a great place to be, is listening to this incredible dialogue tonight, the questions that we've been getting from the residents, and really how effortlessly this staff has been. They are a really capable and compassionate bunch, and I'm really honored to be working with them. I won't go into, unless you'd like me to, Mayor, there's my bio's on the website. There's a ton of information out there about me, but I will say that I have been in public service for almost 20 years. I've been in local government management for about 15 almost. And again, on my 56th day here in Gaithersburg, and excited to be working with this group. I had Dennis Enslinger, our deputy city manager, stay on because we were monitoring some of the topics of interest as people registered for tonight's meeting. And there was one topic that didn't come up organically in the other presentations, which was there were some folks asking about an update on elementary school number 8 at Kelly Park. So I've asked Dennis just to spend just a couple minutes talking about that, if I've addressed everything you'd like me to do. Thank you, Mayor Ashman.
Thank you, Tanisha. Go ahead, Dennis.
So just to let the members of the public, the Planning Commission just recently had their courtesy review. For those of you who don't know, the way it works for schools that are built within the city, our Planning and Zoning Commission does a courtesy review, with the exception of the forest conservation approvals. That just held last week. The Planning Commission did make some recommendations to the approved site plan. You can find the approved site plan, or the site plan that went before the Planning Commission, on our website under the project pages. Just type in Kelly Park School and it will come up. Where this goes from here is the school district is looking for some transfer to occur by the end of the year of the site within Kelly Park, meeting the conditions of our agreement for the transfer of title. Those are getting pretty close. The city staff has been working diligently on finalizing a couple of documents. One is for the synthetic field that's going to be built as part of the project that the city would actually own. And then also we're getting some additional bleachers there at Kelly Park for the baseball diamond. So we would anticipate that project moving forward. The last discussions I had with the Montgomery County Public Schools is they were looking at starting construction sometime after the first of the year.
Thank you so much, Dennis. I know I'm glad you guys thought of that, because I know there's definitely interest in the community about that project. Next, we're going to move on to from the mayor and city council, and I'm going to start with Council Vice President Sales. And I'll just remind all of my council colleagues, we got a lot of great stuff out of staff. It is getting late. You don't have to go super long if you don't want. I'm just saying.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to staff for all of the updates and answering the questions and getting us to this point during the pandemic. I'll keep it brief. You know, in addition to my senior advisory committee role, I am in a few other positions with the Maryland Municipal League's Legislative Committee, and the legislative session is coming up in January. It will look a lot different. We're not even sure if it's going to be 90 days. It's definitely going to be all virtual. And so we have identified one priority issue and two special initiatives. Our priority issue is to ensure the highway user revenue fees are going to, we can get our highway user revenue fees back to the limit that they were before they were reduced during harder budget times. And our other priorities are to look at some climate change initiatives, and the other strategic initiative will focus on environmental issues and climate change. And so we'll have more information about our priorities when we have visits from our legislators later on this year. National League of Cities, we have our conference is coming up. It's definitely going to be virtual this year as well. So yeah, things are busy, and there's definitely more information on the website. And as always, you can contact me via email, social media, if you have any questions or concerns. And thank you for everyone that tuned in this evening.
Thank you so much, Lorianne. Next, we're going to go to Councilmember Neil Harris.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to the members of the public who have patiently made it this far in the presentation. So first of all, you can see my email address is up on the screen right now. If you need me for anything, I'm happy to stay in touch and do what I can to help people. I wanted to talk about a few specific things. So one of the things I've been very interested in, and that made me interested in serving on the council, is transportation. And my colleagues will be greatly relieved that I don't go into great length about it, but I serve on the Transportation Planning Board at the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments. And I'm just generally concerned that regionally, we're not keeping up with the infrastructure we need to keep people moving as we continue to add population. And that's more of an effort to lobby our county and state people to provide infrastructure that we need, because as a city, we're really only responsible for the local roads and not the state and county roads and transit lines and things like that. The good news is there is a plan to put bus rapid transit along 355 to supplement the relatively recent addition of some express buses. The flash bus system is coming soon as well. So that'll be helpful. And I mentioned earlier when somebody was talking about bike lanes, some of the research and new projects that we're doing to enhance bicycle mobility. One thing I'll say is there was some thought that this wasn't the highest priority for the city because only a tiny fraction, or almost not measurable fraction of a percent of our residents actually commute on bicycle in the city. As you get closer into the DC area, there's a significant number of people using bicycles, but we don't see it that much here. But thanks to our friend COVID, we're suddenly seeing a lot of people on bicycles, and I don't know if they're probably not commuting to work because we're not really going to work in an office, but this may change things and it may increase the priority for bicycles and take some of the traffic off the highway. So I think that's a story to be continued, but we'll be watching it very closely. So one of the other reasons I got involved in elected office is I had been involved as a member of the city's Economic Development Committee, Economic and Business Development Committee, I should say, which I am now the official liaison to, and really looking at what kinds of new economic development we need and which ones maybe we don't need. So after years of lobbying my colleagues and finally having to reconceive how we do it, we've begun a couple of years ago a long-term visioning process to really figure out what the city needs more of and maybe not more of as we move forward over the next 20 or 30 years. Really a long-term planning process that involves bringing in a lot of outside data, doing research, and having open discussions about it, which we've already had an all-day retreat with the elected officials and staff to discuss it. And I think that effort is a little bit on hold thanks to COVID, but once COVID is over and we get a clearer path forward, we'll revisit that process with a lot more public input. And in terms of public input, there's already a lot of public input going into the new Lake Forest redevelopment conceptualizing that's going on. So if you haven't checked out the project page on the city's website, I'd encourage you to do that. There's a survey that's up that's had a huge number of people providing their feedback. That's been a huge success for us. And there are public sessions to discuss it as well. And finally, I just want to point out that, again, due to COVID, we're seeing a lot more usage in the city's parks and other outdoor amenities. Just the other day, I was out with my son this weekend, and I was looking for one of our normally deserted green spaces to fly a remote control airplane that I just picked up. And I couldn't find a quiet park because everybody was out. There were people doing yoga in the parks and people gathering socially distanced and masked, which was good to see as well. But please take advantage. About 15% of the land area of the city of Gaithersburg is city-owned public park. There are many trails, there's many places to be out in nature, and it's good for us during these trying times. So I'll leave it at that. Thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you very much, Neil. We will move on to Council Member Mike Sesma, who I affectionately refer to as the Dean of our council.
Oh, well, thank you, Mayor. I don't have a lot to add. I guess I would say, I mentioned at the beginning that I was first elected in 2005 and the issues were development, traffic, and school capacity. And 15 years later, the issues that we're dealing with are development, traffic, and school capacity. So those things have changed, have not changed in terms of the questions that we ask and that we deal with, but I think how we balance those three. I think the fourth thing is economic development. And so we've seen great economic development in the city, particularly in the R&D and biotech industry. I think we've already heard tonight that we can refer to Gaithersburg as the epicenter of vaccine development related to the pandemic. So that's pretty important. I want to thank everybody for participating tonight, and my email address is there. I know a lot of people follow us on social media. You can follow me as well on Facebook or Twitter and address particular questions or comments about the city and the things that concern you through social media. There's, you know, I think one of the most important things that we do is we respond to your concerns, your wants and desires for the city, the things that we can do to make the city better. I think as Neil pointed out, we have a lot of different parks, a lot of different things that you can do. One of the things that we like to brag about when we leave the city and talk to other city officials, whether it's in the state or nationally through the National League of Cities or the Maryland Municipal League, is we'd like to talk about the fact that almost every resident is within a quarter mile of a publicly maintained or city maintained park. It could be a small park, it could be a large active park, it could be a passive park. So, and we're adding parks all the time. And the kind of parks that we end up with have a lot to do with the input that we have from the community on that. So important to be out there. But the other thing that I think is important is the cultural amenities and activities that we've been able to offer through our parks, recreation, and culture is an important part of our identity as well. So I've been the liaison to the Cultural Arts Advisory Committee, and before that, the Art and Public Places Committee. So I think those are aspects that improve the quality of life, but then carry over into everyday activities that we're involved in and engaged in. So again, thank you for participating tonight. It was I think a number of the issues and questions that were raised weren't surprises to us, but we always want to hear the perspective of our residents. And so again, thank you. You can find us on social media, or you can find us, email us at through the city. That'll be it. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike. We'll move on to Councilmember Ryan Spiegel.
Thank you. As the mayor said, the hour is late, but I wanted to thank all of our attendees for your excellent questions and comments tonight. I have to confess, I had to restrain myself from jumping in to add to the staff's answers a bunch of times because like the mayor and all of our council members, I feel passionately about these issues and I love talking about all the interesting aspects of them. But as is obvious tonight, our staff is all over it. And we so appreciate them. And we're very fortunate to have such an outstanding and dedicated team. And we're also fortunate to have such a turnout tonight for this session. So thanks again to all of you for your civic engagement and your interest. And I hope you'll continue to connect with us. We work for you. We're here to serve and support you. And thank you also for your patience as we work to continue providing services and programs in this unprecedented pandemic and exploring new ways of conducting city business. As you can see, the issues we work on are never as simple as they seem, and there's a lot of nuance and complexity and competing priorities and limited resources. In addition to the important issues we discussed tonight, we're working on advancing racial and socioeconomic equity in the city, affordable housing, protecting the environment, and our commitment to serving and helping our vulnerable residents, which also includes, by the way, the Bank on Gaithersburg financial literacy initiative that I started about 10 years ago, which has now grown into a whole suite of financial empowerment programs working with many partners in the nonprofit sector. And that's been a wonderful success to help unlock opportunity for hundreds, possibly thousands of people in the city. But I hope you will all agree that while no place is perfect and we are continually striving to do better and to benefit from your feedback, Gaithersburg is an exceptionally special city, a real leader on many fronts with a great quality of life. And that is due in no small part to engaged residents like you. So thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. We'll move to Councilmember Rob Wu.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. And so my over-under for tonight was 10 p.m. So I'm going to make this very short. I appreciate everyone coming out to comment tonight. That's why we do this stuff. And as you can all see from what staff provided tonight, they make the job very easy for us. And so thank you, and good night.
Okay, and Lorianne texted me that there was a element of our legislative priorities that she forgot to mention. I want to give her a chance to mention it real quick.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. So it was the technology for small cells. I know that our kids are heading back to school or planning to head back to school in January. And so the local authority on small cells is going to be another big issue so that we can retain local authority, but also ensure that our kids are able to learn in this time of virtual learning. And so keeping an eye out for legislation in that realm as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorianne, for adding that. And I will close with a couple of things here. First off, tech team, if you could bring up that last slide with the ways to stay connected in the community. As you see, the city of Gaithersburg is very active on social media, as are all of we individually. You can friend us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter. So you see how to access the accounts. I will note that we call at a lot of our meetings for interest in volunteering for one of our city volunteer committees. This is a really important and good way to get involved in the city, whether your interest is in public safety with our police chief's advisory subcommittee or committee, we have, or cultural arts, or environmental affairs, or transportation. We have a number of different committees to suit different interests. They all provide valuable feedback to the mayor and council, advice that we look at and consider very strongly. So it's a great way, and I encourage all of you to go to the city website and look at commissions and committees, that page, and see if anything's of interest to you. And if so, let me know. My email address is judd.ashman@gaithersburgmd.gov. There's only one D in Judd, JUD.Ashman. And I'm glad to hear from you as the rest of us, the rest of our council and staff are. I will also note that we have our regular mayor and council meetings every Monday night, almost every Monday night, 7:30 p.m. We started this one early because we knew we had a lot of ground to cover, and with some great ground that we did cover. But next week, the next regular meeting we have is on November 15th. As I mentioned before, and as several of our council members have mentioned, this community doesn't stay the greatest city in the world unless we care, but we do. We're lucky to be surrounded by a community of residents who care, particularly you guys who have dedicated, at this point, 3 hours and 1 minute of a Monday night, a weeknight to affairs of the city. And we cannot appreciate that. We can't overstate our appreciation for that. As Ryan mentioned, we're here to serve. As you looked at and met sometimes some for the first time, our staff tonight, their period of service has ranged from 56 days to 31 years. But there's a lot of care and professionalism in our staff, and we couldn't be more proud. And we hope that you are, and we hope you'll take advantage of the services that we offer in the ways we want to help. So until next time, hopefully you'll join us next Monday, November 15th at our, is it the 6th? No, it's the 16th. Have I said the 15th? I meant the 16th. It's not on a Sunday, it's on a Monday. It's getting late, guys. Anyway, until next time, let's do great things, Gaithersburg. We are adjourned.